Okay, well, hey, what's up, guys? My name's Josh, aka Black Dynamite, and I've been playing TF2 for since it came out on the PlayStation 3, and I kind of haven't played it recently, but nowadays I've been playing Father Forgive Me, like a little Doom Quake shooter, and I've been playing a lot of Left 4 Dead. Still, there's really nothing like Left 4 Dead, to be honest. Even Back for Blood, that kind of sucked. I didn't play it, but I watched the good videos on it. So I've been playing Left 4 Dead, Counter Strike 2. Been still playing that Counter Strike Source when the Nail Gun World, the group I'm in, does that. And see anything else here. I also recently got the Steam Deck, and I've really been playing all my games on that. I'm usually a keyboard and mouse guy, but the whole tracking pad and everything goes on there. It works for better because I go on a lot of sales and I got to drive everywhere. So having this thing on me all the time kind of hooks me up, helps me out. So I've really been just gaming on the Steam Deck. A little bit of the Walking Dead, the Telltale series games, Sam and Max, the new remasters. The Aperture Desk is something I played recently on the Steam Deck. But yeah, I like a lot of Valve games. It's kind of like the main games that I go to. Other games have to really, like the Father Forgive Me, have to really have something special going on for me to get into them. Because like I feel like Valve games for me are sort of like the staple game, like the core game of any kind of game. Like if it's a zombie game, it goes back to Left 4 Dead. The only game that's unique that zombies is, World at War or something, classic Call of Duty stuff. But I pretty much stick with a lot of the classics still. There's not a lot of new games that's come out that really drawn my attention. In the last couple years, I've been playing Doom Eternal. I played that one, played the Doom 2016. And that's about it. I mean, I kind of stick with a lot of shooters. I don't do too many RPGs or anything like that, big multiplayer games. I do a lot of single player games really because I guess I don't have any friends. No, I do, but I just mostly don't have, not online most of the time. So I'm usually playing on the road. That's why the Steam Deck is pretty helpful. I like replaying classics, and I always play on the hardest difficulty because I like to torture myself a little bit. So it's just fun. But yeah, that's pretty much what my gaming history is with that. I think I started Team Fortress 2 in 2007. When it came out, I was at Hollywood Video.
Oh,
It's like it was part of Stop. I pre-ordered, not pre-ordered. I rented it. I rented it for the PS3, the orange box, and I started playing everything. And TF2 hooked me right away. I think I was like 11 or 10 years old, probably. And I played on the PS3 for about a year, and then I finally moved to the computer when I saw there was a bunch of updates and new items added in and all that stuff. And I remember the first server I hopped into was a double cross, and I was wondering why the heavy didn't have boxing gloves immediately. I didn't know anything about the item system. So it was September something 2011 is when I started on TF2.
wow. Awesome. So in a way, you've kind of been around since release.
Yeah, I just not on the computer, but
That's
like 2008 is when I first started playing it on the PS3.
that's a rare sight to find somebody who started playing on one of those, I guess, less popular platforms to find people on.
Yeah, and it was super not it was like not that populated when I started playing on PS3. Like you could always find a match at that time, but there was probably like 10 servers up at that time. There wasn't very many, people, like it wasn't super populated. I didn't know about the computer version, honestly. I wasn't into computer gaming. I was just doing PS3 all the time, Nazi zombies and Call of Duty World at War and stuff like that.
Yeah. Wow. All right then. That's pretty. I mean, the only person I've ever met who had a PlayStation 3 was my girlfriend, and I've grown up really on the Wii, and then later in life the PS4. So, in the way I see it, it's
Mm.
like PS3 is like old to me, and that's kind of weird.
Yeah, it is. It came out in like 2006. I mean,
Oh wow.
that's only a couple years after Half-Life 2 came out. Think about it.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
So there's a point in my video that I'm kind of wanted to talk to you about,
Hmm.
where there's a theory that I've had, and I kind of wanted to ask you about it to help confirm it or deny it. About there was this difference that developed in Team Fortress 2 fan base between the player base and the fan base of people that watched it for YouTube. Because throughout my research, and even still present today, TF2 is more popular of a game to watch people play than to actually play it.
Yeah, that's funny.
As noted by like the daily player base and stuff being significantly less than any views that a YouTube video gets. So I was kind of wondering what your thoughts were on that, considering that, you know, you've been around the game, as it were, for a long time, and you've watched it grow. Were you into the YouTube scene of it at all, or did you just play the game?
I mean, when I started playing in 2008, I think it was, like I said, that's when I had on the PS3. It was just a game. Like, it was kind of mysterious. It was in that early Source engine days where it was like this really cool, like, excuse me, I don't know if I'm supposed to curse, but
No, it's
this
fine.
really cool, this really cool place. Like, the Source engine was kind of, I don't know, mysterious almost. Like, it had this, how did they do this kind of feeling, kind of magical feeling. And all, like, the way that the wood grain looked on Two Fort, and how all the planks were not perfect, and it looked like it was kind of lived in a little bit. And all the different, I mean, even back then, the bugs in the game where you could build a dispenser and get into one of the little, you know, and step on it and build a teleporter in one of the parts of the map you're not supposed to be in, and stuff like that. Just all that kind of feeling. It was really like that mysterious feeling in the game at first. For me, that whole YouTube thing kind of started happening. I think the Meet the Team videos kind of started out with the same feeling. But it wasn't until, I think, like Germa and Star, that's what I started. I watched those guys a ton when I was young. And I think they probably started in 2010 or maybe 2011, actually, I'll say. So I'd say right before the free to play update is when I think more of like a YouTube thing started happening. There was more of the Meet the Team videos out, and it was kind of like the characters were becoming more developed. I mean, at that time, Meet the Medic was like this huge mystery, and it was like, when is Meet the Medic going to come out? And then when the Meet the Medic update came out and all these crazy items came out, like the new set, like it was one of those last times I remember where the daily news pages, like, all the new updates coming out day three of the update, and the heavy with the Tomislav came out, and all this stuff, that the game started just kind of feeling like it's like a cartoon, not in a bad way either, but like a comic book or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think that's where the separation kind of started happening, because before that, it was sort of this chill little game. I mean, it was still really popular, obviously, but it just, and that has to do, I think, with Steam too. Like, the feeling of the Steam back then was, I don't know, there wasn't so focused on the market based and all of this stuff, and the lore behind the game was still mysterious. So I feel like once the lore started opening up more, it kind of became like it separated that, if that makes sense. Like it was really popular to look into it more than just play it. But before that, like right around, I think 2011 ish, right before the free to play update, as that was coming out, it was more like a vibe. Like when the classless update came out and the Gentleman Service Medal and all that stuff, it was like a very mysterious. There wasn't a lot of, you know, crazy lore going on. It was just kind of like, what the hell are you talking about? Like, who's Mann, the ghost of the? It was just silly. Like, it was just a vibe. It wasn't like this in-depth story. But right around then, when Meet the Medic came out, the video, that was the first video, Meet the Team video, that was super detailed. Like, it didn't feel like the other ones. It didn't feel like a documentary.
Yeah.
Where people were, you know how Meet the Scouts, like, do you even know who you're talking to here? Like, he's talking to the camera.
Yes.
And or Meet the Heavy, he's telling you about his gun. He's telling you about everything. Or Soldier, you know, he's they're filming him talking, like his kind of psychosis that he's in or whatever is going on.
You're right.
It's
And
like they
Sniper
feel more like a document.
And Sniper in the camper
Yeah.
car.
Yeah, Sniper in the camper car, that kind of vibe. Trying to think who. Oh, the Demo Man, same thing. But Meet the Medic rather was like a movie. Like it wasn't like someone was there filming it. It was like it was a cartoon show. That was like made like, and I think at the time there was a promotion that came out with Adult Swim where if you had like a Yahoo Mail account or what was it, AOL, Hotmail, and you did a certain email, you get the chicken hat. That's how you got the genuine robot chicken hat or whatever.
Oh.
And that's how that happened. Is you had to have a certain email address and like send in an email or something like that. Sign up on Steam with an email. And the way that they did items back then was not. It was just very in the game. It was very contained. And I feel like after Meet the Medic though, after the Mac update, or rather during the Mac update, the game was still kind of like it had some lore in it, but they weren't really digging into it. And then Meet the Medic comes around. That's when I feel like it was really popular on YouTube to watch. If you go back to Jerma had his first videos on Team Fortress 2 way back in 2011.
Hello, everybody. I'm going to introduce myself right here. My name is Jerma. I'm going to start doing gameplay commentaries. Some people might already know me from playing in servers, but some of you probably don't, and this is my introduction to you guys. I'm not just going to do Team Fortress commentaries, I'm going to do other stuff too. But most notably, I'll do Team Fortress stuff because I love the game. It is my absolute favorite game in the world right now. It has been for a while. I've been playing Team Fortress since beta, and before that I played Team Fortress Classic for 3 or 4 years also. So I'm a huge fan of the series, and when Team Fortress 3 crumbs out, I'll be getting that too. So
Same with Star, I think. He probably had the same stuff. 2011, 2012, that's when they started.
Hey everybody, Star here, and this is some Team Fortress 2 on the map Egypt, and I'm playing Scout for 2 rounds here, just kind of a brief run through of some basic tips that apply to pretty much anything. The Scout is a perfect example and a sort of practice of staying alive in first-person shooter games because you're so fragile, one mistake will get you killed. Literally one rocket from a soldier can kill you, and one grenade from a demo man can kill you. Walking in front of a heavy at the wrong time, you're dead. You know, one little thing is all it takes. So you need to be very careful in your movement and only come out and kill people when you're completely confident that, you know, you can handle it, and nobody that you can't handle is going to notice you doing it. And one of the obvious, I'm not even going to say one of the best things, probably the best thing to do when you're starting an attacking map, right from the beginning, run to the back with your bonk atomic punch, which is a weapon I would recommend you pretty much always have on you, unless you're certain situations on defense. I like using other things, but pretty much always for attacking. It's a really essential item to have. It is kind of your safety net of not dying, and getting to the back for a scout is very important. Like I said, you have to know when to poke. So in this first game, I had realized, you know, my team's in a little bit of trouble. I'm in the back. It's perfect time to poke. The sniper still doesn't even notice me. It's a easy, quick 3 kills, which is kind of a big deal. There's only, I believe, 6 or 7 players on the enemy team. So that's quite a lot of people.
And I think that's when it became more popular to watch the game. And then Star was like a freaking badass at the game. He just shredded people. So people were interested in like doing really good at the game, like super good, and having almost competitive 5v5 lobbies, or I don't know, there's a 6v6, right?
Yeah, 6s.
And competitive, right? And that's when I remember that starting to show up. But before that, it was just like a really cool game, casual, jump in. Every match you jumped into was unique. Like it was its own battleground. It was its own playing field. And it had just every match had a cool vibe to it. There was so many custom servers and custom maps going on. And after the free to play, it slowly became more, I don't know, I guess, yeah, like famous and YouTube commercialized a little bit, like a cartoon show, like how Meet the Medic felt, which is not necessarily a bad thing. I think I have, you know, nostalgia for those time periods, but I also think it was really cool the way that they did that. So I feel like right around then there is a separation. To kind of answer your question, there is kind of a separation now between it being watched and it being played, because it's not just about the match anymore. It's about the lore behind it and all of the items in the marketplace and all of these different things. And Steam was different back then. Everything was different. It was just like cool games coming out on a cool new engine that's like mind blowing. I'm sold. That's kind of, so I think that's where the separation is. I think that's why people are watching it more now, because the game's not in its prime anymore either. There was a lot of mystery to it. What's going to happen? What's the next update going to be? And, now there's not much they're going to do. People know there's not much. So I think what's left more is the lore and the history of it, and watching it and sort of seeing funny stuff about the soldier or having classic lines. Because there used to be the Sandman or something as an example, and it was like, oh, this item is crazy. I never thought the Sandman would get nerfed. Matter of fact, when that happened, I was confused. I was like, who the hell's been saying it's bad? That's fun. Like, it's super fun. I never get annoyed by it or anything. If I get hit by a ball from across the map, like, damn, you got me, like, fuck, you got me. Oh, well, but I'm not necessarily upset about it. I think the only item I didn't like too much was the Dead Ringer, because it made the spies pretty annoying to fight against. But I wasn't too complaining about it. Maybe the Gunslinger sometimes, but I remember the Gunslinger came out and it was super fun, and like people were just experimenting with the items in the gameplay. And then it became about TF2 needs to be this specific thing. And I think nowadays that's what people are YouTubing, competitive people and the best of the best. I think there's that Bunny guy, or it's like B4. And then I don't really know. I don't watch a lot of that. I just watched Germa and Star back in the day. Oh, and Shibby, that guy. It was about the crafting system that came out and the hats and all new update. It was just exciting, right? So I think that's probably why there's a separation in the community in that way. I think there is a little bit, because I think there's people like me, perhaps like you, who, like, I remember those days. It was just so cool. The game was on fire, and too many influencers came into it to change it, where that's not really why people were playing it in the first place. People were playing it because of what it was, not what they thought it should be. And once they changed it to what they thought it should be, sort of became this like commercialized product. The cartoon films, and Meet the Pyro came out, right? It's kind of documentary-ish, because there's like a couple things, so they kind of stuck with it on that one a little.
Yeah.
But it just became kind of like, whoa, kind of crazy, and so many hats and all this stuff, and it became more about the market and people unboxing stuff. And that was kind of where a lot of that started, right? The crates, and like they do Counter-Strike now. Where'd that start? That started, even the microtransactions you see today, I'd never seen anything like that, except for in TF2, right?
Right.
And they did the Polycount update, and they added the Mann-conomy update, and you could buy crates and keys and get random items. And I remember at the time, like, what the hell is this? Like, I didn't even get it really at the time, because I was like 12 or something like that, or maybe 13 or something. But that may have been part of it. I had 13-year-old brain.
Yeah. That actually ties.
But yeah.
Sorry, not to cut you off, but that ties into something else I was going to ask you immediately afterwards, where you were talking about how the game started becoming this thing that people thought it should be rather than what it just was, and all the item changes. And I was going to ask you specifically about the item changes, but now, like, basically everything, because you and I have had conversations before about the weapons of old and how nerfing the majority of them was a confusing idea. Like, I thought when I first read up on the history of the Sandman after our brief conversation about it, I was like, how did people not just consider this a skill issue back in the day? Because I've done some research on how gamers in general behaved back in the day, and it always is this notion of, shoot, he got me, I just got to get better at the game. And it really promoted this creed of get good that I really don't see, not only in TF2 anymore, but really in a lot of games I play nowadays. And
Mm.
I'm wondering if that was a result of just meet your match and how they tried to pander to a competitive scene after the successes of like CS:GO and Dota, or if it was something else. And I wondered what your player perspective of that was. Was it influenced by YouTubers at all, like stating their opinions and then all of their fan bases being like, "Oh yeah, this guy's right because he's popular." Like, was there an element of that, or what was your view on that whole matter?
I mean, there was definitely influence in the communities, from different people. There was a lot of people in the game complain. I remember people complaining about, like, let's say the gunslinger. People were like, "I hate many sentries," but it's kind of like you said, there's strategies now where you add in a new weapon. You're not just adding in something with new stats. You're adding in something that you have to counter with new strategies, because there was all the game was growing in that way. And I think that was fine, really. Obviously, there's times when there's something that's truly so overpowered it overtakes the original weapons that the class had, and where it's like there's not even a point to use that thing anymore. Okay, fine. I could see a little, bouncing around that, or it's so overpowered that if the two or three people are using it on the other team, and no matter what, like, it just dominates. But I can't really think of too many weapons that were like that anyways. But there was a lot of people like Star. He used to complain about mini centuries, but people don't realize about Star is that he was really sarcastic. His joke thing was like dark humor and sarcasm, and he was a big voice in the community at the time. And a lot of people also, I think, hated mini centuries because of him. I would even say
Oh,
me too, as a younger kid who was influenced by that. Watching someone, I'll be like, yeah, mini centuries do suck. So I could see that, a little bit. Um, and I kind of miss the days of like, man, I just want to play a little bit more with the classic centuries. That's why I like stuff like Pre-Fortress 2 or TF2 Classic now, but definitely a Pre-Fortress 2 or like the 2007 version, 2008, is because of that. I still like that original century and stuff. But looking back at it now, I was just kind of influenced a little too. So I do think people like that, and not any fault to him or Star or anything, just the idea that there was definitely influence that, oh yeah, mini centuries are annoying. And other people, like competitive players, again, I don't think TF2 is ever a competitive game. I think you could get really good at it, and you could put a bunch of people who are really good at it in a server, and it would be an awesome, intense game. But it should have never gone to, well, this is competitive, right? Because now again, that was influence of someone. I mean, I can't think of the other people's names. There was people who were Star's friend on there, Germa and stuff they knew, which were cool people, but in terms of the game, they would push for it to be competitive, more competitive. Those weapon needs to be competitive. Oh, ban this from that server, ban this. And that's fine. Have your own server, but that shouldn't have went and influenced to what the game was as the default, as just it is what it is kind of thing. You gotta somewhat and just enjoy it. Like, people like the game because it was just what it was instead of what they wanted it to be, like we were talking about. So I think there definitely was influence, and then the whole meet the match thing, meet your match, definitely came from someone's influence, because it didn't feel like a TF2 update that Valve made. It just felt like something that was done to appease the crowd, kind of to say, here's that thing y'all been wanting for crying about for a long time, let's say. You know what I mean? Here's that
yeah.
thing y'all been wanting and waiting for. And it was there, and it really wasn't that good, right? It didn't make a big difference, because competitive play was sort of an offshoot of this core of what TF2 was. It was something sort of like counters, like Gun Game used to be for Counter-Strike Source. It was an offshoot somebody else did and put into another server, like a custom server. It wasn't an official game. And there's times like Gun Game's huge now in Counter-Strike 2. That's something I play a lot of, Gun Game or Deathmatch or something, but Gun Game is a big one. So, I mean, but that used to be, I don't think competitive should have necessarily made its way into the game, because in such a big state, like, it was just organized people changing the rules for themselves. But what they try to do is superimpose the competitive part as a core part of TF2, and I think that's what threw it off. And I think that was influenced by different competitive players or people taking what people said wrong and not taking it as a joke. You know, TF2 something to have fun with, not necessarily be so hardcore about, especially TF2. I mean, you know, so yeah, I think to your question, yeah, like there was a lot of influences on that. People got a lot on the train of what other people were saying. And as a younger kid myself back in them days, I was very easily influenced by, you know, different people, what they would say. Nothing that they were trying to do that, but I was just, you know, was just a kid. Who was I supposed to know? So there's a lot of, once free to play came in, anyone could download a free, a 11-year-old just like me could download a free Steam account. Not only download a free Steam account, but get the game for completely free and jump into any server and watching all the YouTube videos. And how'd they learn about it? Probably through YouTube, classic clips or classic videos. So I think there was a lot of influence in that sort of, they tried to inject competitive into the core of TF2, which is what threw TF2 off of its vibe. Like the core should stay the core, and that should have been an offshoot of TF2, just like Gun Game was back in the day for Counter-Strike. Not that core game mode, you know?
Right.
So
you reckon that
think
like
that
you reckon that competitive should have remained strictly a community effort for those who just preferred that rather than something that tried to be officially implemented?
Yeah, definitely. It threw it off, I think.
All right.
Sure.
Could you describe to me the I guess a couple things, because this first one isn't, I don't know how much that can be talked about, but the old quick play system versus the casual mode we have now, the benefits and detriments, if there are any, and also afterwards your personal anecdotes and viewpoints on the cheater bot crisis as a whole, I guess.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, quick play. So when I started in 2009, it was open the server browser and look for a server, right?
Right.
I don't ever remember seeing anything that was a Valve official server or anything like labeled like that. I could be wrong because I was just looking at the map and the player count back then.
So it was kind of like Counter-Strike source in that regard.
Yeah, you would just scroll through the, you know, the server list, the server browser, and I always found a game almost on every map. You know, you could scroll down. Oh, hey, Dust Bowl. Oh, hey, TF2. Oh, hey, this. Oh, hey, that. Or TF2, Two Fort. I meant Dust Bowl, Two Fort, or you know, Gravel Pit, or whatever. And you know, when Quick Play came in, I was kind of on the side of, oh man, that, you know, Valve's official servers and this Quick Play button is going to kill all the community servers and no one's going to play on them anymore. And that, in a way, that kind of happened, but not too bad, because there was a lot of really popular custom servers and communities at the time that even if there was a quick play button, people are still going to play on these community servers, but there's not a lot of new traffic. So you're kind of depending on these old community or older players still going to these same servers. Like I used to be part of a group, I don't remember the name of it now, but they would run Vikings on one of their servers like all the time, and then they would run Dust Bowl on another one, and then they would run like a mix, like a cycling map thing on the other one. So you know, you'd have these communities of servers who'd have their favorite maps playing all the time, and then their ones that cycles and everything. So when quick play came in, I think that was pretty, looking back at it now, I actually like that, because you could quick play and you would play on kind of a random map. And to me, it opened up a little bit more variety. Like you were jumping into the game to a different map almost every time. And you were going into a server that was going to cycle to a new map. And they also had community quick play back then, where you could still just hop in a community server if you wanted. And I remember being like, well, I want to try the Valve servers a lot. So, because it's official, it should be the best. And it could be me in my mind, but it kind of changed the vibe a little bit. And that's just a vibe change. I have TF2 for me back in the day. It just felt so, it felt fresh. It felt open. It felt kind of like I said, almost mysterious and just official, like solid. I can't explain it. Before quick play, like if you even notice how they changed the menus and stuff, the buttons look more, it sounds funny, but like mushy, I guess.
Yes.
Like it's like the quick play button looks big and round and kind of mushy. back in the day, it was like Half-Life 2. All the text is real sharp and everything like that. And to me, that makes a little different. I mean, that's just me. I'm kind of like super detail oriented person, so that could just be me.
Yeah, yeah.
And then the other part of your question was not about quick play, but what's the new system, how they do it now? Casual mode?
Yeah.
Right? So casual mode, when that came out, I was like, it's kind of nicer than the quick play because it's a little bit more detailed. Like you can pick what maps you want to play on specifically and all that stuff. But I kind of thought it didn't add anything. It just made things more complicated. Like I like to just go at the very most right there. Hey, quick play me into a game and drop me into a server. Attack and defense. I don't know what map I'm going to be on. I'm just going to hop in and see what happens. Like I'm going to be thrown into the map, and that's where the game kind of started happening. Instead of like fine tuning all of your settings, TF2 is not too much of a fine tuning kind of game. It's like hop in and just. It's like big. There's explosions. The demo man's powerful. The heavy is terrifying to run into in a hallway. The scout is quick, and he annoyed me because he just, did a backstab on me with his scatter gun, basically, and try. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff. The pyro, like you're walking around as a spy or a scout or a sniper, and you turn a corner and there's a pyro, and you're like, I'm dead. You just know you're gonna die.
Yep.
Like that kind of stuff would happen, and after they added to me these kind of so fine tuning everything and making everything so, I mean, we've got kind of past the competitive part, but it kind of goes a little hand in hand with it, making everything so fine tuned. I think that it really kind of changed, first of all, how easy it was to get into a match and how much more variety there was, not just in the maps, but in like the communities that you would hop into and the different groups. Like you and me, we're on Nail Gun World now. Everyone check out Nail Gun World if you haven't.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of the final remaining TF2 safe havens, whatever you want to call it, just gaming in general. But we do plenty of games on there. But like it's groups like that would have been around back then a lot and had 2 or 3 servers opened and stuff like that. And but in terms of the bot crisis thing, I kind of had quit playing TF2 heavily around, what was that update when they first added skins? No, here's the update that killed it for me personally. Like really stopped making the game fun. And I think it was the one, I remember it by little details. One thing happened is they like change. Okay, this is like a little details. This is like, I'm real detail oriented, so people might be like, you might be like, why are you focused on these tiny details? But this is how I mark changes in the games, in the game for me.
I'm the same.
I remember yeah. So you know how it is. It's like, you kind of remember, I remember when they changed that little detail, and one detail they changed that I remember was a change in the whole game for me. And because there was a lot of elements around it changing too, not just this change. Was they started changing the models, the view models, from the view model system and world models to the C model system, which was a universal model. Like the world and view model were the same thing. And I'm like, oh, cool. That sounds pretty cool. That sounds like, like fresh, that sounds clean. But you go in the game and it looks like garbage. Like it killed the visuals of the game. Everything used to have such like a cartoony, bright, vibrant look. And this kind of killed it. Like the rim lighting was so bright and it screwed up all the animations, and they sort of had to come back in and like half-ass the fix on it a little bit. Like it was just not as clean as it was.
Do you know what year that was?
That was, I think, 2014. That was 2014. Because 2013 was an all right year. It was kind of slower, but it wasn't bad. But 2014 and on, they added like the backscatter in that update and a couple other items that I don't remember. I remember the backscatter, and they had added so many promotional items in at that time too. Like the alien. I remember watching like a German video where he's like, "This is the new scout backstab gun," and I was like, "Okay." Like the videos were still good, but the game, it didn't look as good, didn't run as good, and
backscatter.
I don't know.
Okay,
it just wasn't
the Love and War update.
Love and War update. That's what it was. To me, that like killed the game.
Wow.
Like, I just feel like at that time, like they didn't care. I know people say, "Oh, it's not about the visuals." Okay, I understand that to a pretty heavy degree, right? Like, it's not about the game looking the most realistic or the most stylized, but TF2 had a nice fine balance. And I feel like if you touch something that's established and screw it up and then say it doesn't matter, that doesn't make sense. Like, it's established, like it's like that's the I expect to see the scatter gun. I kind of enjoy. I mean, that's part of the game, right? Is looking at it.
Yeah.
If you couldn't see, it wouldn't really matter too much if you how good you played it. And yeah, some people turn off their view models and stuff like that. That's cool. And if you don't care about that, that's cool too. I'm not even talking bad about that. But as a foundation, it's like they should have all of these levels to the game. The gameplay, the engine functionality, how smooth it is, the visuals is part of that, you know? The sound design is part of that. So if you changed all the sounds in the games and made them shittier, would it be like, I don't care. I can barely hear the spy's footsteps, or the minigun just sounds like a garbling TV in like that's on a staticky TV, but it doesn't matter. Like if those elements went, you know, off the path, off the foundation that it was built, let's say, not even the path, but yeah, like I said, like the stable and awesome foundation that it had, you would notice it. And for me, I'm a very visual person, you know, people, you know, so when they started changing that, it's like another layer of the game was taken away. And before that, they had changed so many balancing things. I don't know if they did this during the Love and War update, but they were changing the Sandman. They had changed. I'm trying to think what else. Like, I know that over the years they had changed. Like, when I think a lot of this happened early on too with Natasha and stuff. That minigun, they changed the minigun right away.
Mm-hmm.
They changed the Sandman a couple times. Like the first Sandman, you couldn't double jump with it, so you had to. It was a whole new scout kind of feel, kind of like TFC scout, right?
Right.
But you had the ball as a replacement, so you was like a give and take kind of thing. And I think that's a good way to do the game, because that's basically what they're trying to do now, right? Well, you're going to really sacrifice something to have this weapon, and it's going to do in return, you're going to get a whole nother ability or statistic that's going to make you powerful in another area. You're going to lose power in this area, but keep it or gain it in this one.
Right.
And I feel like Love and War update they started really screwing with the visuals. Like the minigun, they screwed up the scatter gun, the rocket launcher. And if you notice, if you go back and see some videos of that build, you'll see the rocket launcher has a screwed up view model that they ended up changing and fixing it. So they were aware of this. The scatter gun had a broken reload animation where Scout's wrist it just broke. It just straight up broke out and like crinkled all up. All these little things where the shells weren't coming out of the gun properly, and people were making mods all over Game Banana. I remember going on there a lot to fix these problems because people cared. People noticed that. But to me, that's when the game really started going kind of off. It wasn't mysterious anymore. It was just like, I don't know. There was just something that really went off of it for me. And that was to your original question, right? It was that when did the game start sort of going off, you said? Was that, or about the bot crisis?
Well, kind of, yeah. I was more towards the bot crisis, but this is information I didn't know that actually is very relevant. I was going to forget to ask about. I'm trying to find the specific type of problem, like the name of the problem you're talking about, because I know what you're describing. I just don't remember the name of it. View models being gummed up. Was it like the way they were lighting, or like, because I've done the comparison video, right, of the 2007 models versus now, and how much more like shiny and light reflective and also detailed that they were, and now everything's like super compressed so that they can have cosmetics in the game, you know?
And even the textures, they made a thing where the textures load in when you pull out a weapon.
Yeah.
And you have to I had to you know that thing, right? You or you pull out a schematic, or you pull out one of the buildings for the engineer, and it shows a little blueprint on the ground in the sort of stencil figure of the building you're building, and it comes in all blurry, and then it slowly, the details come in. People might not notice that, but some people might not. But I think it's pretty noticeable, kind of just like because the quality literally degraded over time. Like it didn't make the game run any better. Like to me, I mean, maybe I had a decent computer and stuff at the time, but I don't think it really made the game run any better. But yeah, like that was based. So they switched. What they did is they used to be for like the rocket launcher or scattergun, any of the weapons in the game. 90% of them, they would have a view model, or which is classified as a V model, V underscore model, or or a world model, which would be W underscore model in the files. And when you played the game, you would have a unique view model in first person that would be complete. I mean, even the arms would look different, like a more tan color, more detailed on the scout's gloves, or the pistol would have like more details in it, like the ejection chamber was actually 3D, like you could see inside of it. And when they first changed that on the pistol, if you go back and watch some old Shibby videos, you'll see the whole pistol was just a flat texture, even in the view model. And they actually had to retroactively fix that and change that. And so that was what one of the big changes was. Say, well, we're switching from the view model and the world model file system to a C model, which was a unified model. It would be the one you see in the world and the one you see in first person, which sounds pretty good because that means the new world model is higher detailed than it was before. But what ended up happening is it kind of became a middle ground for the view and the world model, and sort of there wasn't a particularly good looking one. Matter of fact, a lot of the models looked better just in the world, like from a third person perspective, than they did from the first person perspective. And it's a first person shooter, right? You want the gun you're looking at to be nice, you know what I mean? Or the visuals you're looking at to be, at least to some degree, right? Even Counter-Strike 2, like they made it look nice. They made it look clean. They made the lighting good. They made the animations, well, it kind of just kept the same ones, but they still look pretty decent, right? I mean, some of them could use some like a little cleaning up maybe, but overall, I mean, it's that classic Valve animation, right? And so I think that's kind of some of where it went off. Now, after that, to me, that was a mark of Valve not caring about the quality of the game so much. And it slowly started to go downhill, and they started just saying, whatever you guys want, if this makes you happy and just keep playing, you want competitive, sure, we'll do a competitive thing out. Not to say they didn't do it with any work or love or effort into it. Maybe they did. I'm sure that there were some people who really cared. But I just feel like they went in the wrong direction, and I think that's why the bot stuff started happening. So I stopped. I on and off played after the Love and War update, probably from 2015 to 2018 ish, on and off, and then I really haven't played much of the original, like or what you call the retail TF2 for a long time. Like I just haven't played it in a long time. Um, you know, and so the bot crisis didn't really affect me personally too much. I never noticed going into lobbies. The few times I played on this casual mode, I've never noticed a bot. I don't think I've ever seen, but I didn't play a lot. I wasn't a daily player and a few hours a day like I used to, like when I was younger. So I didn't notice too many bots in the game. Maybe here and there. Like I think I remember jumping in. I will say this: when I did jump in the last time, which was probably 2022, really playing just trying to hop in with all my items and everything before I sold and everything to get money to buy other games and just deleted stuff because I was like, yeah, because it kind of keeps you attached to the game a little bit. I used to have my badge, and I was like, man, I'm like a year off and I can't get the Soldier of Fortune badge, and I would like freak out about it a little bit, not like out loud, but like internally, like I want that special badge. But so I just deleted all my stuff because like it's kind of like makes me like I gotta keep playing because these are all my special items, and I just deleted a lot of them because it kind of was just like I'm not really playing it anymore. Sold a lot of them to buy stuff on Steam, and so jumping in like 2022. I think I did notice a couple times people voting and like the bots hacking on the servers and stuff like that. Nothing particularly like crazy, but just, the whole thing with the gibbous sniper running around with the scope pointed straight in the air, doing dumb stuff. And people would just kick the bot, they kicked it. So I didn't notice too much like craziness, except for a couple times. I've seen a few hackers in my days. doing some crazy mad hacks around the map and stuff like that. But in terms of the bot crisis, it didn't affect me too much because I had quit by that time, pretty much playing on a regular basis. But actually jumping into casual mode, I never really noticed too many problems. I did end up finding it simpler to find a good community server like the Uncle Dane guys servers. Those were pretty clean. There was no bots on it or anything. There was no lag. There were a lot of people playing in it. That when people go and they specifically choose a server, there's a little bit more like, hey, we're here to play the game. When you jump in casual mode, I think I noticed how many bots they banned. They probably banned 50,000 bots or something. I mean, so that means literally half the player base.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not sure if those numbers are accurate, but like half the player base was basically bots that you're jumping into, so you don't even know what you're heading into. In competitive mode, never drew me in, so because I just found it kind of like, and like if they're going to introduce a competitive mode, leave the casual game like different. Make the stats on the Sandman different in competitive mode instead, and the same as they were in casual. Like, but anyways, that's just me kind of going back to that part. But
Right. Yeah.
yeah, I don't know if that answers the question. I kind of went on a little rant there about stuff.
No, that answered it perfectly, actually. And to your point, I mean, I remember the very first weapon I ever had the random drop for was the backburner, and I really loved using it more than stock because of its design. But I remember when I first equipped it, the texture for the head, for the dragon head on it, was completely compressed, and I was like, what? And so I just quick swapped from the shotgun back to it out of like fidget habit, and the texture was there, and it was like, it was back, and I was like, oh, that's weird. Does this game normally do that? This was back like in my first week, back my first week of playing the game, actually. So
wow. Yeah, I mean, that's what they did, is they added that texture streaming, I think it is. And the game used to not be like that. Like, you would spawn, pull out your back burner, pull out your direct hit, pull out your the pistol or the any of the weapons you can think of. You pull it out and the texture would be sharp and clean. Like, and I think that speaks to the quality of the game. Like, it looked good all the time. And so, yeah, that kind of, they added little like downgrade, like quality of life changes for the worse in the visual department for the game. And they had to retroactively fix some of these, and kind of, like I said, the rocket launcher used to be where, you have the iron sight on it, and it used to be two openings. If you look how it is, even in TF2 Classic, you go on that mod, that's the original rocket launcher model, pretty much, maybe a little HD or something.
mm-hmm.
Or you see any of the models in that game, but like the rocket launcher, it has two openings in the iron sights. But now, or when they first switched it, it was like the world model. They literally just switched the view model out for the world model. I think almost as an attempt to get a bunch of lower end computer players to be able to play the game somehow better, but then kind of take away from everyone who's been playing it for, at that time, probably 7 years or 8 years. They've been playing it since the beta even, and they completely just scrapped the visuals to get more players to, maybe just buy more keys, buy more crates, fuel the economy some more. And it just seemed like that's part of what caused the bot crisis, is the barrier of entry was much, much, much lower. You could get in the game for free. Game used to be I think it was probably $30 when it first came out. I got it at Best Buy on the disc that you install Steam with for $20.
Oh, wow.
I'm pretty sure it was like $20. Yeah, I have the original copy of just TF2 on the disc, and I've got it at Best Buy. You put the disc in your computer, it installs Steam and install the whole thing, and it was like $20 back then.
Could you send me a picture of the case and the disc? Because I've seen Xbox copies of TF2, but I've never seen like a PS3 copy, and I've only ever seen orange box Xbox copies. So, like, if you could show me that later, that would be awesome.
Yeah, dude, I'll get them to you. I don't know where the original PS3 orange box is. I don't even know if I have that one anymore. I might have just the disc somewhere. But the original TF2 copy of just the TF2 for PC alone, I have that. So I could take a picture of that one in the disc, and it came with a code that you had to enter in and everything, like,
Oh wow.
you know, your CD code to confirm that, this is yours. I believe I have like they did the same thing with Left 4 Dead and Left 4 Dead 2 and stuff like that. And so I have the Left 4 Dead one game of the year or whatever. But yeah, TF2, there was a barrier for entry immediately, right? You got to pay at least $20 to get in.
Right.
And, after the free to play update was kind of the first thing, like that sounds great, but you immediately lower the barrier of entry, which is cool because you have a ton of players. And that worked for a little while. I didn't care if they were little kids or whatever. Fine. Like to me, that didn't bother me. Maybe if they were screaming on the mic or something, but I mean, that's like another story, right? That the squeaker thing, that's a whole nother story. The squeaker's another story.
Yeah.
But having a bunch of new players in the game was cool. But I feel like that sort of opened the door for a lot of, it literally, I can make a new Steam account, download TF2, boom. Before that, you'd have to download a Steam account, pay $20. If you got five accounts banned, and you were hacking, you would spend $100 at that point.
Wow.
Do it 2 or 3 more times, you're in the $150-$160 range. So you're investing into cheating and getting banned. Now you have at that time there was no investment. I mean, there was the whole premium thing where you could, get premium services, and I don't know what you get, item drops and stuff like that. Maybe
no, you get access basically to voice chat, because at the time the bots were more into the mic spam and like spamming a lot of explicit stuff, and so they put that barrier of entry up just for like not using the voice chat. But it spread to the point where like free to plays couldn't even hit E for medic, and still can't, because that was also a form of the voice communication that's baked into the game that was used to spam. Yeah. And it still is, because the purchasing of that is so much cheaper that people don't consider that a difficult investment, really.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's I don't know how much it is now, but is it like $5 now or something?
Yeah. It's still $5. Yeah.
It's like $5, right? So I mean, now you could theoretically get, 4 whole accounts for the same amount that you used to just to buy the game, to actually just download and play the game. You can get 4 whole accounts, hack it, spam them, whatever you want, and then get a whole. Like you could literally, quadruple the amount of times you could get into the game at a much lower barrier of entry. And when they did it back then with this premium service, you would get more backpack slots.
Yes,
I remember that one. And this was in the Meet the Medic update when they did free to play, and it was like you can do more backpack slots, and I think you could. What else? I don't know if you could purchase. I think you could always purchase from the store, but just stuff like that. And maybe you couldn't voice chat or something. There was certain limitations on it, though. You had to get to that point, you'd have to buy the premium. And maybe even for item drops, I don't remember exactly, but yeah, now same thing, right? They have to say, well, you're not going to have access to these things, these little things like voice chat and stuff, unless you pay this premium. But again, when you had the high barrier of entry of, hey, you got to spend $20 to even play the game, to even download it and play, to even download the game, you got to spend $20. And I think that just having that in there a lot of times would introduce a more, I don't know, maybe a mature crowd in there, or maybe not even mature, because again, I was 11 when I got the game, 13, 12 in those years. But I really wanted to play that game, so I made sure that, Mommy, can I have your credit card and buy a game? And I bought the game. You know what I mean? At the time.
Yeah.
So, I got Mommy's credit card. I played the game. And, so being able to play, but I really was specific that I wanted that game, $20. Now it's like, again, so they lowered the barrier of entry for the game. They lowered the quality of the game. So I paid $20 for it, and they basically downgraded the game over the years and took out all the fun stuff that I liked about it. Like, I think that's just kind of crazy. Like, I don't think that's really how it should be. I mean, it's their game; they can do whatever they want with it. I'm not really. I get that too, of course, but just like, I don't know. I think if they would have, now it's too late probably, but if they would add the quality back to the game and say, hey, look, you got to have at least these minimum specifications to play the game at the quality that you want to play it at. Why not make the C model system? Why can't you select that in the visuals? Why couldn't they make it more customizable? Because if I have a computer with at the time, the highest one at the time when I got it was the 1080, the GTX 1080.
Oh.
If I have the GTX 1080, oh yeah, the cream of the crop, the best that you can get. I had that one, and I wanted, like, if I wanted the highest visuals at that time, I should be able to select that. So I just feel like that's another problem they went, is they said, well, you're either just going to play it the way we're making it and universalizing it for everybody, or oh well, what they should have made it. I think that would have been a better thing, is they should have made a separation in that, much like they do in Counter-Strike now. If you want to play premiere mode, you have to pay for that, I'm pretty sure.
Yes.
And I bought CSGO and it was $15 when it first came out. So I bought that. So I have that, I guess, like, just by default on my account.
Mm-hmm.
But, you have to pay. And that's the same thing with TF2. I had the premium stuff. So, like, people still had that. And that's good that they gave people that, regardless. But it just kind of lowered, like the default state of the game was a lower quality version. And I feel like it should be reversed. Like, if you go and purchase the game, the default state of the game should be the highest quality. And everything else should be additional or extra, or another option for lower quality computers. So,
Right.
If you want to get the free version of the game, you got to play with other people who have the free version of the game, which I think they do something like that. But if you have a lower spec PC, then you need to select the settings that we've made that don't look good at all, really don't look that good anymore, but at least you can play it, right? That's awesome. That's, like, great. But forcing everybody to sort of be on the same page, I think, is what introduced a lot of just, like, you have to play with the same people who want to hack the game. You have to play with the same people who want to spam mics and put bots in the game. So I feel like that's where Valve really kind of dropped the ball on that. It kind of screwed up on that part.
Yeah. To kind of change topic a little bit, just for the sake of the video topics, and considering how much, actually, there were a lot of questions that I had that you've already answered by nature of your side tangents. So please, whatever you're doing, keep doing it.
Okay.
What's your view on what was and currently is your views on the, like, Mann-conomy as a whole? Was it a good addition at the time? Do you think it's been managed well over the years? And by proxy, as a kind of side question, what's your view on Valve sort of, I guess what most people call piggybacking off of the community to add stuff like maps and cosmetics, and not really bothering with their own stuff? And, like, of course you can go into, like, gunmetal and what your idea of war paints, or what they're called now, weapon skins, as a whole. And what's your view of all of that? First of all, community market, and then, like, personalization of your in-game stuff and all that.
Right. Okay, well, the Mann-conomy update, when that came out, that was pretty cool to me, because I missed one of the, like, ultimate. To me, this was, like, I think I was probably, like, in 11. It came out in 2010. Yeah, probably 12 years old. And I saw the Sam and Max update, and I was like, what the hell is this? And I saw the guns, and I was like, a freaking Luger and a big old purple revolver and a bunny hat. Like, I don't know why, just, like, I wanted those things. They got me wanting them for some reason. They sold me on it. Like, they completely sold me on that. So, but I missed the promotion time, so I couldn't get them. And my assumption was, I was actually depressed. I was like, I can't get them. And I was like, couldn't sleep at night, depressed for a couple days. Yeah, I was just, like, sad, because I was like, I'll never be able to get these again. So when the Mann-conomy update came out and trading came out, now they have this whole economy where the communities established this many keys is worth, is the equivalent to a Max's severed head, for instance, or a big kill, or whatever, or this many scrap metal equals this many or reclaim metal, refined metal equals this many keys, and so on and so forth and so on. They have this whole in-depth economy. Well, when that first came out, it was like, I have a cool item, you have a cool item. Oh, I have this one, I just got it. Oh, I don't have that. Well, how about we trade? Okay, cool. And I got the big kill for trading. I think it was a home front item. It was the Heroes Hamachamaki or whatever it was. You could probably find it. It's the red one for the soldier, the band that goes right over his eyes. And it came from the home front game. And I had pre-ordered the game and played it. And I was like, cool, because I was just trying to get the cool items, And I was kind of trying to get that feel of what I wanted, the Sam and Max items. But they never released anything as cool as those, in my opinion. Obviously, they released some cool items, but like in terms of just reskins, like I thought those were the coolest additions, just in my personal opinion. Like those are the coolest additions to the game ever. Just the way they fit the style of the game. Back in the day, they even looked better. Those are items that also looked better. The lighting on them was better. The models looked sharper. Everything about the texture didn't load in. It was just so sharp. And but anyways, that was just a little tangent on that. But the point is when the trading came out, that's something at the time really excited me because I could get the big kill finally. I could get the Luger more finally. I could get these items. If I didn't have something, I could craft a few of my items that I didn't like and trade for it. So I liked that. Buying items from the store momentarily, I thought that was cool. But that was only for a moment, and very shortly, little 12-year-old, 13-year-old me was not happy with it. I was like, I'm not really kind of like how it was before. It made things feel more unique. It made things feel more special when I had to play the game to get them, when I had to save up enough back burners and extinguishers and random items to craft enough reclaimed metal and scrap metal and all this stuff, and to get refined metal enough to trade for an item that's worth the equivalent, or bargain with someone to trade a back burner for I'm trying to think of a item that came out, a back burner for a degreaser at the time. Hey, I'll give you 3 back burners. You can craft some stuff for one of your degrees for a degreaser. And like, oh, okay. Just like a bargaining system it was back then. But now it's shortly lost its utility and coolness and became so overblown where you had to, I remember shelling out freaking who knows how much, $50, $60 worth of course mommy's credit card because I was still a kid. But like, for a 50 keys to buy a Max's severed head, after trying to like literally sell my whole backpack. I was a little kid again. I keep saying that, but I was so trying to get it because I had Bill's hat. I had, all the promo items. Other than that, I had a whole bunch of items, and I was trying to be like, I'll give you my whole backpack for the Max's severed head, and no one would do it because there was this economy established, which was kind of cool at the time, but it really was unhealthy for me personally. This may be different for some people who were older at the time or whatever, and I get that. But for a younger kid, it was super unhealthy because I was in my own personality. I was super obsessive about it. Like I said, detail oriented. I was super into trying to get the amount of Bill's hats or whatever that's worth this Max's severed head, or get another Bill's hat to trade out for him. And well, now I don't have that item, and how do I get that without spending the money? And it actually took away probably, I would even guess 30%, maybe more, 40, 35, 40%. I'd say 30% of the entire community was dedicated to this market or this economy that had been building. And every few weeks, it was like a stock market where something would change value. And it's like last week, extra last week, the Max severed head was worth 2 Bill's hats. Now it's worth 4 Bill's hats. And it was just a whole mess. It was like, who wants to think that much? Like I remember even thinking, I'm not even playing the game anymore because I'm so addicted to trying to get the best economical decision for my virtual items. It was just too much. Like why should a little kid, I mean, I was a little kid again. There's people older, do whatever you want, but it's like it took away the fun of the game for me, especially because I was in just like I was a little kid, I was like, how do I keep saying that? But I just was. I was like 12, 13 years old when that first came out, the market and everything. And so I thought it was pretty cool at first because I could get some of the items that I liked and then I lost a chance to get, for instance. Still never felt quite as special as being like, yeah, I have them. I pre-ordered the game. It never felt as good as that, but it was cool to have them and stuff at the time and be able to experience that. But I think the Mann-conomy update added another layer to the game that took away from mysterious, like I was saying, that initial TF2 vibe. It was so stylized, it was so detailed. The visuals were on point. The gameplay was on point. You could have, a full of people pretty good at it and have a freaking intense match and be like, damn, that was good. That was a close one. Man, I just wanted to win that match. Damn it. They got, whatever. It was like, that's what it was about. And I feel like the economy what became the economy created a separation because there was probably, again, a quarter, 30% of the community servers, if not a little bit more, probably more after a while, was trading servers. So you lost a lot of the, I'm playing TF2 because of this awesome gameplay, and the demo man's so powerful or whatever. I want to spy and sneak around and fool some people, man. Oh, I fooled them, and you get a few backstabs and take out the engineer's sentry and open up for the intelligence to be captured. Or you go play a unique map like Expanded 2 Fort, and it's dark and rainy and the base is expanded, and you're like, damn, this is badass. Like, this is cool. Like, this is unique. You don't see that anymore, in my opinion, or you have to look really hard for it or organize a community event, So that sort of, to me, initially was pretty, the trading system was cool. I think they should have left trading right where it was. You could trade like 8 items at a time, more of a bargaining system, because the economy just screwed stuff up. Yeah, in my opinion, it screwed stuff up. It divided, even if it was 30% of the whole community, that means 30% of people are no longer playing the core game. They're doing something else. I remember even sitting on an idle server to get a hat, and I did get one. I got like the tough guys toque or whatever for the heavy, and I was like, not what I wanted, but that's pretty cool. It worked.
Yeah.
I wanted the cool stuff like the tyrant helm and all this stuff, but or the new stuff. But like, I participated in some of that, but looking back at it, it sort of played on the fact that it was so new. I would even say the weaknesses of my little pea brain at the time, where I was like, wow, this is cool. I was like so intrigued by all the flashy lights and the colors of what they were introducing.
Well, if it's 30% of the whole player base at the time, then I guess it was you and like a million others.
Right, yeah, because it was huge back then, right?
Yeah.
That was 2011 or 10 or roughly around there. So I mean, that was
Mann-conomy
huge
released
at
in
the time.
2010, I believe.
10, okay, yeah, I think that makes sense. I think it was right along with the Polycount update, which no one knew. At least for me, I didn't know the Mann-conomy update was coming. That was a complete shocker. The only thing I knew was happening there was a community. So how like the degreaser got involved, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Sydney Sleeper. There was a whole contest on a website called the Polycount, and
Holy
they
cow,
would get,
I didn't
there
even
was
know
a,
this existed. I just researched it right now, and the wiki page just redirects me to the Mann-conomy update. I had to find a different source.
Yeah, so I can tell you, like, I remember no one knew the Mann-conomy update was coming. Unless I was blind to that. It came later, like, one of the pages, oh, hey, day 3 of the update. It was kind of one of those things where no one knew that was coming, and all it was a competition for the community to introduce a bunch of their weapon models, some hats and stuff too, but it was a lot of weapons at the time. The engineer, it was so cool. It was a cool style at the time because the people who were modeling back then too are probably pretty cool. Like the engineer, they gave him like a single barrel shotgun. Like someone made a single barrel shotgun for the engineer with a blown out barrel, and they gave him like a little straw, one of the little straws to chew on, and like a little farmer hat, and like they would make item sets.
Wow.
They were making item sets for almost each class. Like I said, that's where the Sydney Sleeper came from, and there was more to that set than what they released. Same with the Greaser, the Milkman set. That was a set made on Polycount.com, entered into this contest.
Hey everybody, Star here. We're looking at some Team Fortress 2 gameplay as the Scout on CP Gravel. The game already started, but this is pretty much right from the beginning. I got in slightly late. Using the full Milkman set, which includes the short stuff you see me using now, Mad Milk, Holy Mackerel, and of course the cute little hat that you have to get. I finally got that, and I'm kind of poor in TF2. I never really cared about the Polycount sets too much. I really like sticking to my scattergun. Kind of not too used to the shortstop, but definitely throughout this video I learned how to use it a little bit better. And Mad Milk, I've really become to realize is an amazing, amazing weapon. You can see right now the shortstop has pretty good long range abilities, medium range rather. So the playstyle is a little bit different than a scattergun. You want to stay further away from your enemies and kind of annoy them from places where it's less likely that they'll be able to hit you, instead of sneaking up behind them and getting a really, really good scattergun shot on them. For some reason in close range with the shortstop, I cannot aim it as reliably. Scout versus scout battles with the shortstop, I don't know, I just miss more shots than I should. For some reason it throws me off, even though aiming a shortstop and aiming a scattergun are both the exact same thing. I'm just not used to the weapon, and for some reason that's enough to mess me up on some weird psychobabble level.
And by the time this all came out, they said, hey, here's our winners and stuff. And some pretty cool stuff won, but in my opinion, the best stuff that they were making didn't get introduced into the game. That's in kind of speaking into, before we get into it, Valve working with the community to put new stuff in the game. That's where it should have been the focus, is adding a bunch of cool weapons and item sets into the game. Yeah, cosmetics is cool too. And like again, like you asked, the customization, that's where it would have shined the most. And they had some really cool, unique stuff back then that fit the vibe of TF2 right back then. Very mysterious, very like, I don't know if you call it like, I don't know what the word is. Just like super. I mean, I would just basically say very interesting, very like rustic feeling with the freaking farmer shotgun set for the engineer, and
I can't even
the
find
milkman
this.
set for the scout. Huh?
I can't even find this item set because I can't. It's not a Google search, obviously. Do I have to go to Polycount and actually look for it, like on the old? Like the website's still up and actually maintained, but now they do other stuff for other games, so I probably have to search. Like,
Yeah,
they have a search bar
you could
on
probably
their
look up
website. Oh wow, they
Polycount.
have all of their forum posts dating as far back as April 2007.
Yes. Yep. So if you go back, so here's some of the stuff that was I'm looking up on, I put Polycount update TF2. I'm looking at Google Images, and they called it the Polycount pack. And you could find that in the Wikipedia, and people got a little badge who participated in that. And you can, and even on the Mann-conomy shop, I think there's a Polycount pack where it gave you all these weapons. But for instance, you could look up the Pyro's a Dirty Thief pack, and it came with the Axe Explosion, which was an axe with a rocket on it. Different stuff like that. You can find the airborne ornaments came from that, with the Liberty launcher, the Expert Ordnance with the lock and load, and the Ullapool Caber. The Sydney Sleeper was the Croco style kit. They see another one was someone's Polycount work in progress, and it came with the Arbiter, which is a M1 Garand for the soldier's secondary with the battery attached to the side. The Field Medic's tools, freaking I'm looking at these on the images on Google right now, but the Field Medic's tool, I think Wilhelm's War Bucket, the hat was added, but the painkiller weapon and the new syringe gun was not added. And these people would make their own stats and everything like that, kind of an idea. The Outback Aussie, the degreaser did come from that. The bigger the better for the engineer, I think. It came like a revolver called the Big Tex, and the Big Bang, which is like a sledgehammer looking weapon.
Mm-hmm.
Just so much cool stuff that you could find all these old sets that they used to make back then.
Yeah, I just found the Pyro's a Dirty Thief pack. Actually seeing all of these weapons that look, the people who made this actually made it look like it's a real TF2 update. Kind of gives me that what's it called, the Mandela effect, where you see something that you could have sworn was there that wasn't actually there. Like this Heartburner just looks like a better detonator.
Yeah, exactly. It looks like so cool, and that's what I mean. If you can tell the style of those items, it was so stylized, so unique.
Bigger is better. Oh my gosh, it looks like a high-tech blunderbuss.
Yeah, that's another one. There
That's
was, if we can find it, it'd be really cool to see the engineer packs that people made, and to see. Oh, okay. So I found a TF2 contest entry list from June 2010.
Yep. I'm looking at the same one. That's where I found the bigger is better engineer pack.
Nice. And there's like 3 for the Delman, 6 for Pyro Freaking, 10 for Soldier, 8 for Heavy, 10 for Engineer, the Terrible Trucker. Let's see if this was it. Oh man, some of the wide low. I can't see the pictures, at least on my iPhone.
Yeah, it takes.
But the wide
thankfully,
load,
every single image has a hyperlink to either Image Shack or Imager. Oh, the Image Shack images are
they're down. Aren't
yeah,
they?
they're no longer there. But the Imager files are. Let's see if this one works. PNG.
Oh, the Hillbilly pack. I hope this is it. Please. Oh, page not found.
Polycount pack. Let's see. Westerner. Wow, the Westerner just looks like a heck of a better pistol. Longer barrel. Polycount pack. That is. Oh, it's like the Oasis, which is a different dispenser of sorts.
Yeah, they had different buildings people were making.
Wow, this is absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
It feels like I'm looking straight into another world.
Yeah, because they didn't do anything like this anymore after this.
I'm just wondering why, because it feels so. Gosh, oh, here's another engineer one. Engineer is electrifying. This is so interesting. You've got a rifle and a wrench that's more like a hammer. It's a big Tesla coil rifle.
I think I remember seeing stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. This feels so otherworldly. Like, how did I not know about this? This feels like so bogged down by by everything else. I don't understand.
Right. I mean, yeah, they didn't really give much effort. So that's, to me, going to your community question, is Valve putting too much of their work onto the community? This is how I think it should be done. This feels like an interaction with the community to say, hey, let's get your stuff in the game. Instead of, hey, make the game. Like, hey, make the maps, make the style, do it all yourselves. Like, this was introducing stuff into the game for the first, I don't know, just like in a unique way, in a more collaborative way, instead of just like you said, almost make all the hats. We'll just pick a few items. And you notice there's a lot of it's hats now. They don't introduce, and this has probably been a complaint for years. They introduce 90% of the hats, but I would even say 99%. I've never seen, and I could be wrong, there might be 1 or 2. I've never seen them introduce a new weapon from the workshop in the game, or a new weapon from Polycount. And when they introduced the workshop, they kind of killed off this whole Polycount contest. Excuse me, they killed the whole Polycount contest deal.
There is a list here of community contributed items. The first community contribution update, which was in March 18th, 2010 patch. It introduced the Pain Train and the Home Wrecker as the first 2 items.
See, those were some yeah. And that was a whole different thing. Like, you didn't even know that was happening. Like, at least I didn't. Maybe there was deeper community stuff, but the Pain Train, the Home Wrecker, they just showed up in an update one day. It's like, where did these items come from? They just introduced new stuff, and they had been communicating, I guess, with some people in the community. I don't know how that one worked so much, or if they was on maps.tf or something where they got that stuff. That I don't know the depths of that update, because I remember being shocked by the update. Like, wait, what? This is just new weapons in the game?
Yeah, but then you slowly see more and more of the weapons actually being community made, to where right now it looks like all of them, like the Pyromania update, Babyface's blaster, Pretty Boy's pocket pistol, Hitman's heat maker, Scorch shot, carbine, Beggar's bazooka. It's like all of those, pretty much all of the weapons, it seems like, in the game are community made, which seems really weird.
That is weird. Yeah, I mean,
Because
I
that's
think
as
that
far
that's a
back
bit,
as that's as far back as 2010, and some of them are some of them are reskins, right? But it's a lot.
it's a lot. Yeah, I mean, I think so. They have been doing that for a while, and I think that they kind of did their part. They released they released the Scout update pack, the heavy update pack, they never did it. I guess the demo and soldier updates were the war update and stuff like that, where they had their official entries into the game, and then adding sort of community stuff around that and through that time. Um, but even then, like, I don't think that that's bad necessarily, because that kind of built the game pretty good. Like, the pain train's pretty stylistic, but they were still sticking with the style. They were very strict on it. Like, there was so many weapons in the Polycount update that were slightly off, but they look really cool. Maybe they weren't as up to standard or something. I don't really think that's the case, but like where they could have added them in, but they didn't. So like the barrier for entry was pretty hard to get in, especially with weapons and stuff.
Yeah, the last few weapons that were added by the community were reskins. The last actual weapons were the Iron Bomber, the Quickie Bomb Launcher, and the Panic Attack, which were added in Smithmas 2014. And those were the last weapons, I think, to
Official
be added.
Valve.
No, those are community made, it says, but those are the last weapons that aren't reskins that were added to the game. Because after then, there's just all cosmetics until Jungle Inferno, and the only thing from Meet Your Match was a reskin. What was it? The machete.
Oh, I don't remember what it was, but yeah.
The Prinny machete. Yeah.
Oh yeah, right. And that stuff was so random. Like it didn't, like, I don't know, it was kind of random and just thrown in there. Like, I didn't know, there was no like build up to it, but I guess the community around TF2 has grown so much since those times. The sources where they get this stuff, like, that's where I kind of, my memory of it, I don't remember too much of those things, because that's kind of around, like, say, that time when they added the Prinny machete or whatever. I wasn't really paying attention much to it anymore. But I do remember them adding that, being like, well, they added something, but not quite the same quality or intensity that it was before. And I don't think that was a matter of me getting the games getting old. I think it was just a matter of, I don't know, like the way that they were doing it. It wasn't I mean, yeah, I guess to some degree after, 2014, that game's 7 years old, but even then there was, I don't know, there was just like a magic that they started to not care about so much. And the community aspect of the game too, not just adding in stuff officially, but having it more open where people were like on community servers with cool new maps, restylized maps and stuff. But you were saying about, so the community introducing stuff into the game. What was the other parts of your question?
Oh, that was pretty much it. I think just whether or not there was that bloated feeling of the game losing its core aspects in favor of letting the community kind of run the game at this point by like all the submissions that get thrown in and stuff, which I think you've answered pretty well.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, yeah. A lot of I think they could have still had their hand in it a little bit more, with maps and stuff like that. But yeah, other than that, I think they're doing, not doing too well right now with the hats and stuff. But I mean, it is a pretty old game, right? Not at this point, TF2 is, I mean, how old right now?
17 years old.
17, yeah, 17 years old. I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah. Okay,
But,
I have a couple other questions. I know we've talked for a fair bit, but I want to ask these questions, cool. And they're rather large questions with their philosophical implications, but I want your full, honest opinions about all of this.
Okay.
First of all, what do you believe is fun? Like, how would you define fun? And second of all, there's a thing that's been going around recently that I've been deeply contemplating for a while about basically everyone I've been in contact with some of the actual bot hosters, and their actual answers to all the complaints and stuff, and the cheaters too, basically chalks up to either it's fun for me, or it's just a game, or it's just an old game. Why are you caring so much about pixels on a screen from like 2007? Which obviously is stupid, because then why do you care enough to cheat on it? But that's besides the point. The point is basically, how would you respond to something like that? And should games phase out at some point, or can you be allowed to enjoy something for as long as you please, regardless of its age or quality or something? Because I have my own answer to this, but I want to know what you believe is, A, how would you define fun, and B, how would you respond to something like it's just a game?
Well, I think that first I'll say with them saying it's fun to, or it's just an old game, or what does it matter? People are cheating at it. I mean, that's this. Apply that to any other sport or any other thing you would do for fun. We'll get into what's fun first, but what I think would be something fun is some people could come into at a fair playing field, and I mean fair as in not like everybody's, you know, necessarily equal in skill or anything like that, but there's like there's an established pattern to the game.
Like rules
It's
and
not
stuff, yeah.
necessarily. What'd you say?
Like rules.
Like rules, yeah. There's rules. There's an established pattern. Um, there's certain like there's small goals you can go to, and there's big things you like, larger goals too. So like smaller goals would be, in this case, you're for about like what would I define fun as? I mean, as someone who, it's kind of that is a deep philosophical question, because some people can have fun doing the wrong things, right? Cheating or doing something bad, and that doesn't mean that that's fun. It's like that should be fun, or even if I don't know, it's kind of that is a deep question, you know. I mean, for me, relating it to TF2 or something like that, there has to be some kind of rules to the game. There has to be not the ability to like a little lightheartedness to it. Like if someone cheated the game a little bit, but it's kind of like rare that that happens, that's kind of funny. That's fun. There's a level of humor to it. There's a level of I can let go of this and not be so like, damn it, they just captured C, you know, like that mad all the time. A little lightheartedness to it, but there's still like rules that you really can't break, or you end up going off the course. You end up breaking the flow of the game, the pattern. That's sort of that fun part, which is doing, you know, in the case of TF2, you know, you're going trying to storm the points of steel or whatever and do it in a organized fashion. Okay, I just memorized where their sentry was, so now I'm gonna, you know, it's at the B point and the steel doors just open on A, so now we're gonna go around that way because those doors open now. So I guess that would answer part of it. The dynamics. There's some kind of dynamics to it, some level of change to the game that does happen, like in elements in the game that not necessarily are changing completely, but like in steel, when you capture a point, the rules change a little bit, or rather the pattern of the map changes a little bit, right? So now there's a new way people can go. There's a new way people can do things. Now we got to watch that. So a level of dynamics, rules, and lightheartedness to the game, or to anything really, that would make something fun. And then also a level of challenge too, something to overcome. I think that's really important too, to have something that's fun. So dynamics, you know, like lightheartedness, something to overcome. I know there was a fourth one. I'm just kind of trying to think. Oh yeah, and did I say rules already? Yeah, like rules, dynamics, something to overcome, and lightheartedness. Those are sort of four fundamentals, I think, that make something really fun. Because if you make something too intense, you're no longer having as much fun. You're having like a grind session. You're having like, I'm getting frustrated because I'm not achieving the goal. And that's okay sometimes, but that's not necessarily the most fun. I think you want to be able to have a laugh here and there when you consider something fun, not like just frustration and completely I'm overcoming a goal all the time, because it's kind of just like an intense mission, you know, and there's missions and those are satisfying to overcome, but I don't know if it would necessarily be fun, right? So I think there's those four elements there that would make something fun like that.
What was the third one again? Sorry, you said rules, dynamics, lightheartedness, and what?
And something to overcome.
Subjective. Okay.
So like the objective, an objective, right? Something to overcome too. I guess you could say a challenge, an objective and a challenge to get to that objective. So it's like a challenge to, you know, once people build 50 centuries at the last point of Dust Bowl, it's a challenge to overcome that. And there's a lot of different ways you can approach that. So the dynamics, you can come through the lower part of it, you can come through the lower tunnels, you can come through the main area, you can have your base and everything like that kind of built up. The blues are building up their base and their teleporters, and then the reds trying to attack them. So there's another objective to overcome right there. Is now the red team is trying to overcome. I'm just kind of giving examples to these things. So I guess 4 to 5 elements. That would be, you know, a challenge, an objective, something to overcome. To me, those kind of combine to that. An objective to overcome, and it's the challenge in which it is to overcome that is what makes something really fun. And then also a lightheartedness to it. There's dynamics to what you're doing. It's not just, you know, running in a straight line or the 3-laned map kind of thing. You know, there's dynamics to the map. There's dynamics to the classes in this case.
Mm-hmm.
And
also the players you're playing with, I would guess, right? Like sportsmanship and coordination and all that.
Yeah, that's totally, yeah. You know what? I would agree with that 100%. So there's a few elements that are built up from that. I mean, the sportsmanship and the players that you're playing with, if they sort of have this attitude, a good attitude like that, then the game tends to be a lot more fun. Something tends to be more fun when people aren't taking it so seriously. For instance, like I said, that's the lightheartedness. So there is like a good sportsmanship in that. And the people that you're playing with, are they enjoying it in a similar way? And you might have, I'm not saying you can't have fun in a more competitive environment, but you start taking away from an element that makes it fun, which is the lightheartedness or the sportsman, like maybe not sportsmanship, but the lightheartedness and that good kind of lighthearted attitude. Just pulling that away a little bit makes it a little bit more, at least for me personally, a little bit more stiff. It makes it a little bit more like you have less wiggle room. And I think that's something that's important to make something fun like that. So now any of these elements, though, like I'm saying, can actually, if you dig into them too much, any particular one, you lose the overall funness. So these cheaters, for instance, are digging into maybe lightheartedness. They just don't care. Well, that kind of ruins it. All the other elements that make it a nice, like, fun thing to do. So same with people who get too competitive. Well, then you strip away all of the dynamics, kind of goofiness, funny. I can laugh at this a little bit, and you strip away a lot of that, and you end up having it not so chill and fun. And like I said, there's that mystery. There's that old feeling that the game used to have. Is just that lightheartedness, and like I'm not too focused on the details. Like, oh, things need to be balanced exactly like this to the exact T, and everything. This needs to be adjusted to do only 5% less damage, and blah blah blah, and all these different things. Like you dig into any of those elements too much, and you crank into any of them too much permanently, like for a consistent period of time, then you start losing the fun. And fun is when you have all of those elements, not necessarily perfectly balanced, but kind of always coming back to being relatively balanced. You know, you can lean into the intense part when you have that intense moment, right? That's that objective that you got to overcome, that challenge in it, and there's an objective that you need to do, and there's a challenge to overcoming it. Like, okay, now we've been having fun, laughing, and crazy, goofy stuff's been happening, but now there's that moment where we're rushing into 2 forts, you know, intelligence is something everyone would understand, you know, and the sentries down there, and we got to Uber. Okay, go, 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 and you kind of that moment, that part is intensified, and then once you're running out, it's intense to get back to the other side. And then after that sorts out, everything kind of balances back out. But you don't ever want to lean. To me, it's not leaning into any particular thing 24/7 that makes something fun. It's having, and I think that's where the dynamics come in. You can kind of press into any of these situations at any moment. You can see a hilarious ragdoll flying across the screen, or like, something stupid happens and there's your explosion of funniness. Or someone's acting like a spy is super inexperienced, and then he gets caught. He's like, oh, and then he gets blown up. Just anything like that. And then again, there's those moments when you have the objective to overcome, or there's the moments when all of a sudden the dynamics of the game are shifting, and that's the focus. Like, oh, okay, what's the plan? Well, how are we gonna do this now? Something the best example of that is like, in terms of a map itself, is steel. Okay, we captured this point. Now these doors are open. We have another path. Or we destroyed the sentry over here on the what would you call it? Oh, the stair steps on Dust Bowl in that first little section as you're entering. So now we can kind of get in that building and we can set up base in there and moving forward. So there's these different shifting factors that you can't lean into any one too much for too long, because then you start taking away from the whole picture that makes it fun. So I think that's what makes it fun. I know that's kind of a lot, but I don't know if we've captured the specifics. Does that make sense? Kind of what I
Yeah,
said.
no, that's actually perfect. And I'll be perfectly honest with you. I've asked this exact same question to other gamers, family members, friends, and basically everybody I possibly could. I've asked this question at least 20 different times, and your answer has been by far the best answer, because you lay it out in concrete terms that people can understand, and it is by far the most generally applicable thing. Like, this works in any way that any person's personality or temperament can view the game. This model works within the predetermined rule set. Like, obviously it doesn't work with a cheater because there's overemphasis on one part, and it doesn't work too well with like sweats or tryhards or anything because they lean too hard into another aspect of it. But this is by far the most the most generally applicable structure that works really, really well. So thank you for talking as much as you did. That was amazing.
Oh wow, well, yeah, absolutely, and thank you too. I've never really thought about something like that, and yeah, and thank you too. Like I think that is what generally makes something like that fun. And yeah, man, thanks.
Yeah.
That I think your other question too, and I think that could be this kind of that whole foundation, that whole structure goes into the other questions you were having, which is about the bots or the bot hosters and cheaters and stuff. So, like I said, they're leaning into certain aspects of it too much, and their reasonings of it's an old game, so who cares anymore? So, taking out, okay, so apply that to something like football or baseball or freaking car racing, like, someone racing vehicles around.
Yeah.
Apply that to any other situation. Okay, how long has soccer been around? And you're telling me that because it's an old game, it shouldn't be fun anymore. It shouldn't be it shouldn't matter to people anymore. And maybe there's newer things that come along that are the improved versions of that, or they have they cleaned up, maybe they used to do soccer with severed heads, and maybe doing it with the ball now is better. I don't know, there's, that might be a good improvement. But overall, like, look at something like Counter-Strike in another game. And they've sort of dialed in. All they've done is improved the engine it's on, the visuals a little bit. And I say a little bit because Source 2 looks good, but it doesn't particularly look, wow, this is next generation. Like, instead of, it's very detailed. Like, you have to find, okay, the smoke looks great. Oh, the water looks awesome. Oh, the reflections look good. Oh, this is really smooth. But it's not like an overall, like, wow, this is amazing. And I've noticed that with, sort of small side tangent, with people making TF2 maps in the Source 2 engine, like remaking them, like, that kind of looks the same almost. Like, Source 1 kind of hit it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. There's not much of a huge difference in that when something, I don't know if it's because it's so stylized or something, but, either way. So but again, getting back to Counter-Strike, like they updated it to fine-tune certain aspects of the game. And that's cool. But if you notice, the overall game itself has not really changed that much unless you get into the nitty gritty of it. So if they made scouts, they made TF3 in some kind of magical wonderland, future dream world, the scouts double jump might be slightly higher than it used to be, or a little lower. Or you know what I mean? But like,
Yeah.
if they might say, well, that was better because we changed the maps and so on and so forth. Like those kind of elements can change, but the overall formula to the game, I think, can last for a long time. If you really hit something, just like something with soccer or football or racing cars, you're taking two things and seeing who can go faster and get to the finish line first, or cross it the most amount of times in a short period of time. Or there's different ways you can do it, but that sort of core thing to the game, I think my response to the cheaters saying that is that doesn't make sense in any other sports. You're saying just because, again, soccer's been around for hundreds of years, or football, or anything like that, or racing each other on foot. I mean, how
Yeah.
long have people been racing each other to see how long have people been lifting weights, or doing and seeing who's the strongest, or seeing who can do something most efficiently? How long have people been doing that? And just because they've been doing it for hundreds of years, does that mean it doesn't matter that much anymore? No, it's like an established thing people enjoy. There might be the newest, freshest thing out there that people are really into, but it might be for different reasons, like the new engine it's on, or the new graphics, or or the new. Some games don't even hit that well. Like look at something like Day of Defeat, awesome game, but if you go and find servers on there, there's a few servers on there. If you go on Counter Strike 1.6, there's like at least triple the servers, probably, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like there's certain games that hit and stay around a lot longer because they hit something. And as far as I'm concerned, I've never seen anything outside of TF2, another game made by any studio, even Valve, that has really hit that mark, like that has hit something so unique and done it in such a special way, a particular way that is like that just kind of lasts. You know what I mean? If they made TF3 at some point, if like I said, some magical Maryland, I don't know if that is going to act, but whatever. Things that would change would be like how Counter Strike changed. Oh, we changed the bullet spray pattern on the AK-47. Okay, most people, unless you're like super into it, which is nothing against that, of course,
Of course.
you're not really going to notice that. If the scout's double jump is a little different, you're not really going to notice that. If the soldier's rocket launcher does less damage, or the rocket jumping's a little different, yeah, you'll notice, like, yeah, the general overall, like a change for people who really know that. But if a new player jumped in that, the same core elements are there. I can shoot rockets at my feet and jump and get across the map. I have a rocket launcher with 4 rockets in it. I got my shotgun and my shovel. Even if they change the stats on it a little bit, like Team Fortress 2 to me is an established classic. It's an established type of game, which is why you see games copying it. Overwatch and Counter-Strike has its copies, Valorant or whatever. And I mean, so like there's copies of this game to try to mimic that specialness that it has. So I mean, it's not like a Call of Duty game where someone releases, you know, I don't know, whatever kind of generic war game you can think of that's kind of like a Call of Duty. Like it's like, well, there's hundreds of those. There's a whole bunch of those. There's 50 Call of Duties out there that have all kind of done the same thing. Team Fortress 2 is just Team Fortress 2. There's no additional. They try to make a Overwatch or whatever, and they can't really create the same formula again. Like there's just too many unique elements. Like
Yeah.
people used to talk about, they hated the Left 4 Dead 2 characters and they loved the Left 4 Dead 1 characters. So even just the element of the characters and the way that the personalities of them, the voice lines, and how they react to things in the videos are unique, and people like the Left 4 Dead 1 characters more. That was like a big debate. I mean, I kind of like both, but I get what they're saying.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, like that element, for instance, can't be recreated. You can't copy and paste this TF2 soldier into something else, or make someone in the likeness of him and kind of call it like
Original.
something new and fresh, like, yeah, or really original. Like, yeah, they're kind of making a parody off of a World War II video or whatever, or something like that, or the guy from Boston they probably heard, with the scout, or German guy, Russian guy, all these different things. But there's certain elements that are so unique that if you tried to copy that, even just a little bit, you'd be like, that's kind of like TF2. So it's so unique to that. I don't think it should really be looked at like, oh, this is an old game, it doesn't matter, because it's too unique. Like, if it's like, hey, okay, well, we're gonna play Call of Duty 7 today, and there's a bunch of hackers, and it's not right because, well, you could just play Call of Duty 10, and it's basically the same thing, and it's set in the same universe, and they added new stuff to it, and it just looks better, and it plays the same. Like, that's a different scenario. The TF2 is too unique. You can't even go to TF Classic, and have the same experience as TF2, the predecessor. There's elements of it, but then you introduce characters, you introduce art style, you introduce the sound design, you introduce everything you experience. And people don't realize this a lot of times. I'm sure, there's plenty who do, but there's some who don't, probably, maybe plenty who don't. When you're playing something, you're experiencing something, you're experiencing every element of it, whether you kind of really fully know that at the time or not. You're experiencing, if you're not really a big, like, man, I love the sounds of the game, you're still I'm a more visual guy. Like, I love the visuals of the game, and maybe I didn't focus too much on the sound, but I was absorbing all of the unique sounds of the game while playing it. The footsteps, the ways that those sounded, the speed of that I would run as the engineer down a certain hallway. There's just, you get used to so many factors. So I don't think it's really, really fair, sensible to say it's an old game, it doesn't matter, for plenty of reasons we talked about. That you can't apply that to other famous sports or activities. They don't really go out of style.
Oh yeah.
And then TF2 is right. And then TF2 is such a perfect formula, in my opinion, for if you want a game like that, that you can't really you can't jump on another, you can't jump on Overwatch, or, I don't know, like some other copy of the game, Fortress Classic 3 or whatever, that's like, and get the same experience. Like, you can't just hop onto another Call of Duty. Like, you can do that, right? And generally get the same experience nowadays.
Yeah.
Like, you can just hop onto another game, or there's like a bunch of hyper realistic World War II shooters or racing games. And there's like slight dynamics changing, but they're really like, I can kind of play one or the other. Like, you have a whole slew of racing games and a whole slew of hyper realistic no HUD World War shooter games, or whatever.
Yeah.
Or Doom copies, or Doom clones, where you could hop into different ones and sort of get the same vibe. But TF2 is so unique, there's nothing you can just hop onto. So I don't think that's really fair.
It's not tied to a genre that's really like, you've played one, you've played them all, kind of. It kind of takes everything from every part of it, and it really is the perfect masterpiece, really.
Yeah. There's not much you can do, or even, not much where else you can go. Left 4 Dead 1, Left 4 Dead 2, you can kind of pick between those two, but there is no Team Fortress 2 bonus, or and if there is something you can go to, it's Team Fortress 2 Classic, which is a mod anyways. It's like an offshoot of them trying to recreate that, or pre-Fortress 2, which is like the beta recreation, but generally it's all the same elements are there.
Yeah.
Just slightly. So I don't think that, for the original question about cheaters and them saying that, I don't think that that's a sensible thing to say. And I think that that's fine, that's fun for them. Like, whatever, do what you think, but they should be more strict on it and say, well, you can do that on, you're going to get banned. You can do it, but you're probably going to get banned, which is probably part of the thrill for them, is they're doing something that could get them in trouble.
Oh yeah, it's a total head rush thing.
It's a head rush thing. Like, I'm cheating. So I think that is definitely part of it. And I think all the other stuff is excuses to allow them to do something like that in the game. And I just don't think I don't think that those arguments make any sense. Like,
It always makes me sad when that's what you have to resort to for a head rush. Like, I can understand cheating in, like, with the cheat codes in classic Doom, because it's single player, it doesn't affect anyone, and even that gives me a head rush from time to time. But, like, again, if you
Yeah,
if
yeah.
you applied that head rush to any other sport, like my favorite sport is hockey. All right, and even when my team doesn't win the Stanley Cup, I still tear up every time I see it because there's a legendary presence about the cup. There's a timeless element of the sport, and it's just amazing that, and like you can't apply any of that logic to hockey. And then even like in other games, like just video games, right? Like I grew up with Mario Kart Wii, and moving on to Mario Kart 8 was practically impossible because there was so much that seemed like had changed that I didn't really want to play, and I wanted to stay with Mario Kart Wii. And a lot of people have, to the point where they like recreated the online services for it and have like a custom track mod where everyone can play everybody else's maps in Mario Kart Wii. And it's this it's this enormous thing to not recapture the old magic, but to keep that magic alive. Which I think you touched on as well too. Like, granted, my argument is far more on the sentimental side, but yours is very much more in the logic element that I was frankly struggling to find the words for. So yeah.
Well, yeah, I think the sentimental side's a good argument too. When something is so unique like that, like I've been thinking about Left 4 Dead 1 and 2 lately. Like, big visual person. I like how the old guns look. You can see your feet. That's kind of cool. I don't know why, but it's cool.
Yeah.
The vibe of the game's a little bit more like dark and moody and stuff. And there's certain times that happens in Left 4 Dead 2, but you can pretty much play all that same stuff in Left 4 Dead 2. Not too much has changed. Certain details are not that that vital of a change. Like, it's still Left 4 Dead. But like you said, with something like Mario Kart Wii and stuff like that, there's so many specific things, like the tracks or the way that the carts played and felt. Like, there's a sentimental thing, I think, that is valuable too, and people shouldn't trash on it. The same thing with kind of like we were talking about the visuals earlier, or changes certain weapons. Like, you can't just change them and then have no, like, it doesn't matter how the old thing, like, you don't understand. People are playing and having fun. Could have been their favorite part of playing Scout, or even the whole game, because their favorite class is Scout, of running around with the Force of Nature or the and the Sandman, and doing all these things, or back rushing with the bonk instead of being completely nerfed, to where it's like there's such a huge risk to using it. I might as well use the handgun. Like, I think losing that is a sentimental thing to it. Like, I had fun doing that. Now they kind of took that away.
Yeah.
And I don't. Right. So I don't think that's a good argument too.
Well, it's so funny too.
Oh,
sorry, you continue.
Oh no, that was just a sentimental value is important too.
Yeah. Well, and it gets so bad to the point where that kind of, I guess I'd call it corruption, for lack of a better word, bleeds into the rest of the community, to where there's been this movement that has slowly grown over the last couple years or so, that there's a lot of people who really want the entire class of Sniper nerfed. Like, they want to remove his actual game mechanic of being able to deal long range damage from, like, everybody says that Sniper is just Spy, but better, because he doesn't have to go through all the risk of insta-killing a class from super close and hiding, and he can just sit in his corner of the map, and they completely ignore factors like map positioning and his low health and how you can outflank him and, like, all the trouble he gets into. And as a Sniper main, like, I experience all of this trouble firsthand. Like, any competent Spy with, like, half a brain cell will be able to get behind me and ruin my day. And that's fine, because that's what's supposed to happen. And people are like, but he can do this and that, and we should nerf the entire class as a concept. And it's like, are you sure this isn't just a personal problem that you're projecting upon everyone else? Because this is a bit much.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. There's so much.
And people are like, it's not fun to play against or with. And that's their logic for, like, half of the weapons in the game itself, is whether it's fun to play against or not. Because they don't... it seems like people don't want their creativity challenged, and they don't want to get out of their little box. And like what you explained earlier about how weapons like the Sandman would introduce new tactics that you had to work around and figure out how to play differently around. And like it seems like fun means so much different things to these people nowadays, and it's really weird to see.
Yeah, it's more like the fun to them is just having it a certain way, and then I can lay back and it'll be fun.
Yeah.
Or instead, it's like you have this environment set out, and it's like that's kind of growth too, right? Like a change in the environment with the Sandman or the Huntsman. The Huntsman changed it where now the sniper is way more aggressive, and you could be in your base behind a corridor behind a wall where you think you're safe from sniper, and then he pops around a corner and pops you in the head with an arrow, and you're dead.
Yeah.
Like you didn't know the sniper could intrude like that, or the pyro's job was ambushing. Back in the day, and they added air blast, and they added the back burner, and it had no air blast when it started. So you may think, oh, the pyro's harmless if he comes up with me with that flamethrower. As long as I work the air blast, I could probably get him. But if he comes up with you behind you with the back burner with full blown crits and just knocks you out immediately and just toast you, like those are certain elements they have to do, and that changes the game. Oh, I'm playing against a back burner pyro. Like he's got a back burner, not just a pyro. So it adds so many different. Yeah, I don't know. Getting rid of sniper as a fundamental thing that doesn't even. Yeah, it doesn't make sense. Just
Yeah.
have to do with something like maybe even like the pride of it. Like I think I'm right.
Yes, Def. There's a lot of that.
I mean, why would they want? Why can't you just go to another game that doesn't have that then? Because TF2 is so unique. You can't. You want the characters. You want the sniper to say "G'day, mate" or whatever. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but even then, you can't go to. Well, you can't go to another game for a different element of it too, because in Counter-Strike, almost every weapon can headshot if you aim it right, but it's so difficult to do that. And then, like most modern games nowadays, can have capacities to headshot, like the Wolfenstein games, and even in Doom 2016, you have more damage points dealt to the enemies if you aim for the head. So there's elements of that provides the realism of it, I suppose, that people just don't seem to want because. Oh, I don't want to be forced to be careful. When you're playing a shooter game, you have to be careful by nature if you want to live.
Right, and it's like they want to just run out there and just work out for them the way they want it to work out. Yeah. And that's what that takes away one of the elements of the fun, which is the dynamics of it. It can't be just one way or you're gonna get bored with it. Like, I think that was a huge thing when Call of Duty World War II came out. It was like every map's a 3-lane map. Like there's no variety in it. They just look different. Well, that would kill it pretty quickly because there's no like, oh well, this guy, oh man, Call of Duty World at War back in the day, like they had cool maps. There were so many different ways to go. There was higher angles, lower. I mean, there was like houses you could snipe from. There was ways you could infiltrate that house, maybe not know someone was coming behind you. Same with TF2, like there's the side, the spy comes in with a cloak and you don't see him and you're a sniper. Yeah, you're dominating, but then all of a sudden you're getting tortured by this spy. And every time you focus on your job, the spy gets you. So now you're paranoid that the spy is going to get you all the time and it throws you off your job.
Yeah.
So I think those kind of dynamics, then it would almost be like, well, you should nerf people who love sniper could say, well, man, spy's a useless class. He's not fun to play as or against because he just ruins my day as sniper. Well, that's like you said, that's the kind of the point. If a spy is able to do his job well, he may counter what you're trying to do, which that's the only balance there really should be is like, what's that word? I was like going back to some social studies or something, but like that's that word, checks and balances.
Yes.
In the government, you know what I mean? You got checks and balances. Like you're not going to completely override sniper by being a spy. That sniper can be so good every time you get up to him, he outmoves you. he outplays you. He pulls out his machete, and you're not able to get that side stab on him because he's so good at his movement. It could be anything. There's like the dynamics and the sort of those different elements like that could change.
But it encourages it encourages you to get better and make that change a reality, which, from what I've seen more and more frequently these days, a lot of people just don't want to have. They just complain and complain.
No, yeah. Yeah, and Valve kind of gave into that, like, all right, here, stop complaining. I'll just give you this, and you can stop complaining.
Yeah, that was like reason. That was reasoning for like half the weapons.
I don't know.
Shoot, that probably explains why most of the weapons in the game are community made, because it's just Valve pandering at that point to some whiny babies.
Yeah, because every weapon they made, like the original Sandman, that came out. It was like, okay, people got mad that they got rid of Scout's double jump. Well, then don't use the weapon. Like, that's the price you pay to use that weapon and to get the benefit that it offers, which you can stun people.
Mm-hmm.
There was no reason to really, in my opinion, looking back, I didn't play with that Sandman too much, but it's the same idea. Like, why should that even be changed when it's just like you're already sacrificing something to gain something else? Just like now, or the second Sandman where you lost 10 health, but you gained the ball. And to me, actually, I think the first Sandman was the most balanced, if people were complaining about it, because now the Scout's easier to hit, but he makes you easier to hit too.
Mm-hmm.
So the Scout's easier to hit, but he makes you easier if he stuns you, and that's if he hits the ball.
It's a big if.
It's a different little element. It's a big if too, right? Like that has to be its own skill, just like double jumping in your movement as a Scout, which makes you a threat to a lot of classes, like double jumping over a heavy's head and so on. You have to master or sort of get good, right, at using the Sandman and aiming that ball and knowing the trajectory of it and where it's going to hit people and where it's going to stun them the most. Like, that's its own new element introduced, and you're sacrificing some of the movement for some of the ability to take away others' movement. But if they can counter you by using your weakness now, which is not that just you're weak as the Scout, but now you're not as mobile, but you just got, so I think that, yeah, people have kind of always been complaining, and it's always kind of stripped a little bit away from the game. And here and there, some people might be right about something. Like, something genuinely might be overpowered and be like, okay, like, I like the Equalizer back in the day. I don't think there's some weapons, like, why would I use the shovel in comparison to the Equalizer when it was because it used to be one item,
right? Between
they separated.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, why would I even use the Equalizer? Or why would I use, what's the new one called now? The Equalizer.
The escape plan.
Escape plan. Right. So, like, there was pretty much no reason not to use that thing. I guess the downside was you couldn't get healed or overcharged by a medic, or it blocked healing when you had it out, I think was the original. So the idea was you're giving up, but that one I could see fixing up a little bit, because it was just the ultimate tool to use. Like, if you switch to the bat, well, yeah, you just have your basic melee, but you have your double jump back.
Yes.
But with the soldier, it's like, well, okay, well then I just won't pull out my Equalizer while my medic heals me. Like, you can overcome that by not using it when the medic heals you. Why would you need to pull your melee out when the medic's healing you? Be very rare situations. So they could have made the penalty for having that maybe like the escape plan. You can't get overhealed at all, or you can't get healed by a medic's gun.
Yeah.
Or just something else that's like an overall, like, well, I want to use the shovel because I'm going to work with this medic right now, or I'm going to need to be able to heal on the field, or something like that. You know what I mean?
Well, and it's like even dumber when you consider that both pickaxes have that same stat. Like, it doesn't matter which one you use because it still has the same stat. The only difference is the Equalizer has a damage buff the more you get hurt, and in the escape plan,
right,
the more you get hurt, you can move faster, but only below 100 health, and you're marked for death, which means every hit will be a mini crit. And it's like,
Right.
and both of them still have that healing penalty once you have it out in your hand. And so it's like, what's the point? There's no balance there. Like, there's a niche use, and I know this because I've played in a competitive 6's team before. There's a niche use for the escape plan where before you guys roll out of spawn, you blow yourself up at your feet so that the medic can heal you, and because you're at lower health, the medic will be able to build Uber faster. But that's literally it. You don't bring it out for the rest of the game. It has no purpose aside from building Uber. And like a casual player would not understand that. Most people wouldn't understand that.
Right.
So it makes no sense.
Yeah, it really doesn't. And it also kind of makes it like there's no reason for me to equip the shovel. Like, the reason for me to equip the bat over the Sandman is I gain my double jump back in the original one, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's a pretty big gain.
Yeah.
I'm losing the benefits of the new weapon, but I gain my double jump back. And I'd rather have the mobility than to use the ball right now. Okay, whatever. Or with the escape, the original equalizer, when it was 2 and 1, when it was the same thing, they were both the same thing. They could have made it where more were like, well, I want the benefit of, I don't want the loss of whatever the equalizer costs, so I'm going to equip my shovel. And that should sort of be the reason, I think, that would make sense to make that kind of like viable, or fun to experience, to experiment with, instead of just basically making it where there was never, like, when the equalizer was just one item, and even like you're saying with this competitive version of it, or like the way to use it like that, and I've done that before, even just to get to the front lines quicker when I couldn't rocket jump that good, or just to get to the run to the front lines quicker or whatever. There's no reason not to have that thing equipped. There's just no reason, because like, especially back then, if you got in a confrontation, you pull your equalizer out, you're doing triple the damage. You're probably going to get a crit too, and you're running way, way, way faster. Probably like nearly as fast as a scout, if not as fast. So like, there was no real trade-off. And I think that some of those items like that, instead of just splitting it up and kind of making it real niche in use, they should make it like it's worth using this. It is really cool to use. It's like it provides a new way of playing, but it loses. But if I equip the stock, I lose the huge downside that it has, like losing your double jump, for instance. I don't know what the equivalent would be. I'd have to like think that out. If the equalizer was one item, and then you split it up, or rather, if the equalizer was one item and then you had a downside that was worth equipping the shovel again, so you didn't experience that downside. But I don't know what that would be right now. Maybe like less rocket jump. How about your rocket jumps do more damage to you just all the time?
Yeah.
Like something
even
like
10%,
that, right?
Even 10% more damage would be a significant detriment, and is significant enough for it to be situationally useful, like the Sandman.
Yeah. I think that's the way to do melee weapons, for instance, in the game. Like, yeah. So I mean, there are some different ways. I think people complain. Kind of getting back to the original thing, people complain the sniper should just be removed. That's kind of funny. Like, maybe it's just a joke sometimes, but I have seen people who are pretty serious about it too.
Yeah.
And I guess there's always going to be the extreme, like, no, this is for real. This is really bad. But yeah, that doesn't really make much sense.
I always thought
Anyway.
the original, like, I researched the original Panic Attack versus what it is now, and it's so much not like what it is now. Like, it's not even the same weapon anymore, and it kind of makes me upset because it seems so much more interesting to use.
Yeah, it was fun. Like, it was completely unique. It was kind of fun. Not that it was necessarily good, but they could have changed it to be a little better and still kept the same idea where you load the shells in it and then just let go of your, like, I don't know how to say it, but just let go of the load, basically, without letting it out on people. Because
burn the entire clip out in like one shot. Or no, that wasn't the mechanic.
No, like, yeah, or even if they came out like boom, 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 but just like unloading everything at a rapid pace was a fun mechanic, and they could have made it a little better. And then, like you said, they just changed the whole function of it, just like the Sandman. It's like, wait, I don't know. I mean, they could do whatever they want. Like, I'm not arguing that, but I can argue that wasn't a good decision. Generally speaking, was not a good decision.
Yeah. All right, so I know I've taken up a lot of your time, so one more question. Also, can I ask you if I can like upload this interview just by itself as kind of like a quote unquote podcast episode to have? Because like this is really, really fun and informational. I think a lot of people would enjoy hearing what you have to say.
Oh yeah, that'd be awesome. Yeah.
All right, cool.
Yeah, you just do it like as its own episode, and then like put it in your video still as like the big 2-hour one.
Mm-hmm. All right.
To add to like all the info. But anyways, yeah, what was your last question or the other question?
Well, just to, what's your thoughts on like the whole fixed TF2 movement as a whole? And like recently there's been some results. A bunch of the big bot hosters actually got game banned by Valve themselves, received a personal message, and their alt accounts got banned too. Like I think they're testing some kind of like new anti-cheat software like in secret, but no one really knows. And there's been rumors here and there, but just as someone who hasn't played TF2 itself for that long, I guess, like what's your viewpoint on the movement as a whole? Is it like ridiculous optimism? Is it cautiously optimistic? Like what's your view on it?
I mean, I think it's right that should be protested, or I think that it's right for, first of all, for them, people should be able to speak up and say this isn't cool. One reason, because and the most like a reason that anyone could agree on, even people who are like super business or logical minded, and just saying, well, what's really the benefit? If they don't care about sentimental value or just people having fun, people who are just money concentrated could say, hey, most people who are playing are spending some kind of money on this game and are investing a little bit of time a lot of time into it and money. So like on that level, people should not only have the right to protest something like that and say, hey, I want you to fix the game that I'm putting money into. Like I'm paying you money to keep this game going basically. So you should make it to a certain standard and keep it there, or I'm going to stop playing and you're going to lose revenue and I'm going to lose something that I enjoy. And he like said, even if it's not anything emotional, just completely logical on that, like you're losing money and I'm losing a place to spend my money, because I got some money to spend. Like that, I think that they should have the right to do that. And that's obvious to me. It does matter that people are finding value in the game on an entertainment level, even if they're not spending any money, they're spending time into it. The game should be upkept. There should be some kind of care into a product, like some kind of value. Like everything, fades. Everything, like the Bible says, everything gets eaten by the moths and the locusts and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever, but there should be some level of care put into it. Why we're here, why you're here, whatever it is. If it's an art piece, if it's a car, you're going to keep it up running because it gets you where you're going.
Yep.
If it's a relationship with someone, you're going to put work into it so that both people are happy and feeling fulfilled. In this case, it's kind of like a relationship with this game, and they're hosting the game, and they're hosting. It's not like, hey, here's the code, here's the game. You guys have to host your own servers, though. We've not going to do anything else with this game. You guys have to host all the servers. Well, they're hosting the servers that we play on. So if I'm putting my time in there, which is in a way is a commodity for them, because the more time I play the game, if you just look at it in a money sense, you're going to make money off the game because I'm probably going to spend some the more I play it.
Yep.
And as just like a person to person thing, like a love kind of thing or whatever. Like if I'm going and you made this game and I love it, like don't you appreciate that I enjoy what you made, and then I'm getting enjoyment? Isn't that why you made it? At least part of why you made it, right? It's because you thought people would be fun. It would be fun. It was fun for you, say to the Robin Walker or whatever. It was fun for you when you made it and you wanted to share it with others. So where did that go? There's no other again, that speaks to the uniqueness of TF2. So I think I with Valve, in terms of it being crazy optimism, they obviously have done something about it. I think it did work because if people are protesting and they say, "Oh my gosh, hundreds of thousands of people are wanting this fixed," and they're looking at us, and our reputation is kind of at stake. We better do something about it. But with Valve, they kind of, I feel like they do kind of do the minimum in that area, just what's needed, instead of kind of that. If you ever get something from someone, you ever putting your time, money, or anything into something, you always even if you go to the store and you're shopping there, or someone's a customer service person, you always appreciate it when they go above and beyond, right? It makes you a more appreciative customer, makes you appreciate, value the time you're spending with it more, makes you feel good about the time you're spending doing whatever that service is, or whatever activity, or spending money on whatever thing it is. So when someone, it incentivizes the use of it if they put more effort into fixing it. And there's not like, I mean, yeah, you can be making money off of it. So it's sort of appeal. I feel like I don't know how much emotions Valve has behind it. That's the thing. Because what I'm saying, appealing to the money part. If there's someone there who cares about, well, hey, I'm joining this job not only to make good money because I'm enjoying what I do, but part of what I enjoy is having fun on the game, and that a bunch of other people are having fun and making this sort of community around it. And with a big company, maybe they've lost that and somewhat, or they don't, just because of the direction they're moving in, they're not as worried. They're worried about people being happy with the Steam Deck because people are spending money on it. So they're putting a lot of R&D in it. They're putting a lot of time and effort into it. So I think even though TF2 is a virtual thing, people are putting probably, who knows how much, honestly, hundreds of thousands, $1 million overall into the economy of it. Like, I got hacked not too long ago, kind of my own fault. I mean, it was someone's like, "Hey, you can sign up for this Counter-Strike competitive league," and I was like, "Wow!" And maybe I was, I don't do it anymore, but I was smoking a little bit too much of the funny stuff, and I was like, "This seems great," and I signed into it, and I got hacked, and they stole all my stuff, and they traded it away.
Oh.
I'm like, damn. And then I go to Steam support, and I asked them, "Hey, can you give me my items back?" And they said, "We can't, because that would be us duplicating your items, and that would cause inflation in the market." And I'm like, "What the?" So you're just gonna let me get hacked? Like, I know I made a mistake, and I need to be more careful, but like, seriously, the virtual items are that important? So if they're important enough for them not to be able to hook me up and duplicate my virtual items just so I can have fun in the game and use items I like, if it's that important, then they should be worried about this virtual medium that all these people are enjoying and playing on.
Yeah.
For people who are fighting for this, that's my argument for Valve's why they should care. But for the people fighting for this, I don't think it's ridiculous optimism, because Valve is relatively attentive about things. I mean, they're not the best sometimes, but they are pretty attentive about it. And if you really push them, they're going to see what's going on. And they're going to respond to it somehow, even if it's no verbal or written response, but you just see people are getting banned. Well, that means that they did something. But I also wish Valve would be more like, "Hey guys, it's us, Valve. It's Gabe New. It's someone at the, it's the head of customer service at Valve, and we're getting rid of the bots and we're doing this." But that's kind of like extra sauce on top. The fact that they're doing anything about it, I think, shows that you can reach people. I mean, people who protest whatever they're protesting, ideas or business or whatever, do have an impact. At least in America, right, you got the right to protest. In most places, I hope you have that. So having that right, not sure how every other country or every other place is, but I know you have that right, and having that right to protest on the internet's a pretty free place to do whatever right now.
Yeah.
So I think that there should be optimism. There's no reason not to try. There's no reason not to try. And even if you were like, Valve's probably not going to do anything, well, it's worth a shot, and a certain amount of people is going to reach them, like 300, or how much is it at now for that petition?
The petition right now, it's well over 300,000 people, actually. Let me look. Let's see. Save.tf. Let's make sure it logs in right. At the moment, it sits at 343,133 people.
Wow.
That's
And what's the average daily? Oh, go ahead.
the average daily player for the game, like the average
player
daily
count.
player. It's weird because it's inflated by idle bots and market bots and cheater bots and all that, and like there's a great deal that we don't know about it. But Steam says like between 60 to 80,000, and its all-time peak is like 249,000.
Wow.
So that's more than even the inflated numbers say. So
Yeah, definitely. So the inflated numbers, or more, the petition is higher than even the inflated numbers. And say theoretically, you're having on average 30,000 actual players playing the game, going and doing a Dust Bowl game or a Steel game or Banana Land, whatever maps they got on there right now, and on official servers. Even if the official number was 30,000 people on a daily basis, 10 times the player base is saying, please fix the game.
yeah.
I mean, like that's an insane amount of people compared to who's actually playing. Even if it was 50,000 on average, and that was mostly good players, that's 6 times the actual player base is saying, "Hey, play the game." Pretty much the whole player base, probably because that 300,000 people fluctuate through in and out the game through the daily. Like I bet you one day there's, uh, you know, 5,000 players who aren't playing the game on a Tuesday, but they play it on Wednesday. But on Tuesday, there's the other 5,000 who don't play it on Wednesday, but play it on Tuesday.
Yep.
But on average, that number's still there. So all those people fluctuating in and out on their play sessions are voting. And you said 340,000. So that's even like 7 times roughly if it was a 50,000 player base, I mean, like
Yeah.
that fluctuating player count coming in and out is pretty much the entire player base saying, fix the game. We can't play anymore. It sucks. And not because fine, I can deal with the competitive this and that, but at least let me play without every server being filled with hackers, or 90% of them. I think that that's a pretty fair shot at getting through to the company running it. That's a pretty fair shot. If you look at those numbers and that statistics, that's a pretty fair shot. So I would say be optimistic about it, and you can always come back and do it again if they come through, because you're basically saying everybody who plays the game is saying we want it to be fixed. And if it's not fixed, we're not going to enjoy it as much. If we're not enjoying it as much, I'm not putting as much time into it. If I'm not putting as much time into it, then I'm likely to spend far less money in it, or spend no money at all in it. Therefore, not only do you lose your profits, but you lose your player base. You lose all the people that you're trying to feed, or would you say feed, or just sell value to, or give value to. However, if you look at it from the guy with the biggest heart at Valve, who just wants to give someone a great game to play, or you look at it from the business guy's perspective at Valve, who just wants to make the most revenue, or you look at it from another side of Valve that wants to keep everything functioning, whatever, it all works in Valve's favor to fix the game, and it all works in the player's favor to protest it somehow. And by saying, hey, I'm petitioning, this should be done. And most likely Valve's going to say, well, even if they lost 150,000 of those people and said, we're just done playing the game because they're not fixing it, they're slowly going to lose revenue. But they are making revenue in other places. So that might not reach to the person who's worried about revenue, though. You can look at Valve like they have a few different parts to them. The focus on revenue because they're a business. The focus on giving people good games to play because they enjoy that, and the part of them that loves to create. So it kind of feeds into all of their and loves creativity, right? That part of them, it feeds into every single part of their being to do that, to fix the game. So I think speaking out and showing that the entire player base wants to do that I would be pretty optimistic about it. And if you look, it did work. It spoke to them somehow. It spoke to the guy with the big heart who wants to give you some fun stuff to do and entertain people and make something cool for people to play. It help the guy who wants to develop the game, the creative guy who just likes what he does. It helps the guy who wants the best revenue. Maybe not so much the creative guy anymore because there's not much added to the game.
Yeah.
But, as his little baby that he made, man, I want my game, unless they just don't care anymore. But at least in the revenue, and if there's someone with a big heart over there, or a few of them, you're going to reach somebody, especially if you're the entire player base. You're going to speak to the guy who's making the money, so who wants all the best revenue, and that's going to be a big selling point. So I think it's fair to be optimistic about it, but I don't know if in the future they're just going to let it go to shit again, to be honest.
Yeah.
And not care. I can't say about that, but at least for a period of time, like they updated Half-Life 25 anniversary. And I was like, oh man. And for like 3 days, 4 days, it was like every server was booming. There was this place called Ted's Place. Check out Ted's Place on Half-Life 1. Best server. It's all stock and all the maps. And get that OG Half-Life experience. But that pretty much like no one ever plays on that server now. There's like no one on any other servers except for the same Crossfire map over and over again with some mods and stuff like that. So it's kind of like, yeah, Valve put some time into it and it turned out really good. But now it's kind of just died. So the same thing could kind of happen, but luckily TF2 is so unique and there's only one TF2 that, and people have so much invested in it, whether it's the time, they love the uniqueness of the game, the gameplay. They have thousands of dollars of items, even a few $100 worth of items, whatever it is, whatever they have invested in the game, there's only one of them. And for me, I kind of got rid of that. I got rid of all my items, sold them or deleted them. So I didn't have that anymore because I was like, TF2, like freaking out. So, for a long time. So getting rid of that kind of helped me. And now I play Pre-Fortress 2 or Team Fortress 2 Classic. And if you just love the gameplay, I think a lot of those people will end up moving to those mods eventually. But, if TF2 shut down or something, because there's nothing else like TF2. So, I mean,
Yeah.
there's a reason to be optimistic. I think, and for a while, just like Ted's Place was active and the Half-Life 1 scene was active for a minute, TF2 is much fresher, much newer, much more unique. So I'd imagine that I would even be optimistic that Valve somehow maintains this pretty decently and that it'll be easier to outreach and say, Valve, it's happening again. And then I'd be like, all right, well, we did it before. We can do it again. We can spend every 6 months, we can spend a week killing all the bots in the game for a good while. So unless they introduce, like you said, some kind of new anti-cheat. So I think it's fair to be optimistic. I know it was a long-winded answer, but that's fair to be optimistic about it.
No, that's great. All right. Well, I don't think I have anything else. So, is there anything else you'd like to add, or any questions you wanted to have asked that I didn't ask, or?
I guess not really. I think you really covered all the major grounds. I mean, I think for me being a little kid, I will say adding in TF2 was so cool on the PS3. Obviously now it looks like a far less superior version, but it was cool on the PS3. It was cool back there. Was some kind of magic it had when it was in its earlier years and adding these new items that even right before the Meet the Medic update was still there. And even during the Meet the Medic update was still there, was still really cool. And I think that the best way to keep this game alive, the best way to keep something like this alive is to really stick with go with these mods. Like let's have a mod that's a 2008 version of TF2, or a mod that hosts servers of the 2008 time, or this update or that update, so you can sort of at least experience those times again, or have a TF2 that cycles. What if we had a TF2 mod? This is like an idea here. Have a TF2 mod that throughout the years you already have predetermined updates that you just cycle them. Like you start 2007 and that lasts for like 3 weeks or 2 weeks, and then the next 2 weeks you have the Scout update come out, and then the Heavy update, and then blah blah blah, and you build the game up through some of the prime times with like fixes and no, obviously you don't want to relive the bugs and stuff. I mean, that could be, it's funny in its own way, but
Yeah.
then by the time the end of the year hits, okay, guys, 24 hours and we're reverting to 2007 TF2. Here we go it again, because I think that TF2 for a few years hit a sweet spot of updates, and there's other mods like TF2 Classic that's adding new things that are kind of in the style of how they used to do it, but sort of having that ability to play different updates at different times. The only thing is if it would be populated on a regular basis. That would be the either thing that would make it succeed or just make it kind of die off. And that would be the worst thing. But, I think TF2 is really just unique. There's nothing else that comes close to it or even just makes anything like that on the market. So I think it's worth trying to get the best versions of it, the cleanest versions of it and stuff, and maintain those. And I mean, those are just some ideas right there for TF2, but I really think I would speak again, try to recapture that magic on that, or if it was there at one point, so at least you can remember it for being awesome, so I
Yeah.
guess that's pretty much it. I always have those memories, and I think that's really cool too.
All right. Remember to send me the pictures of your PS3 copy.
Yeah, I can send you the PC copy. I don't know if I have I'll have to look, like, scour. I'm actually in South Carolina now. Those are in Texas, but I can get my family to send me a picture.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Of the PC copy, which I'll send to you, but I don't know where the PS3 copy is.
Okay.
And maybe somewhere, but that unique. If you look it up, it's like the white cover on. It came out probably 2008, like early 2008 for the PC, and but yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I can't wait to re-listen to all this, and the dynamic, the whole fun thing. I think was very, very cool thing to go over, because I never really thought about that. So that was a really good question. You have some really, really good questions and thoughts about stuff too. Say.
Oh, I'm grateful. Thank you. I'm grateful to hear your insight. You've given me a look into this that a lot of the topics I hadn't really considered before. So thank you really for agreeing to do this with me.
Yeah, you got it, man. It's awesome.
Well, I'll finally let you go because we've been talking for like 2.5 hours now. So
I know.
Thank you
That's
so
crazy.
much, though. This is I really enjoyed talking with you. It's been real.
For real, man. Absolutely.
Yeah. Wow.
All right. Well, can't wait to see it posted. Oh yeah. You know what? Let's do.
Yeah.
Let's pray before we go.
Yes. Let's pray.
Let's pray real quick. I was just gonna say, I was thinking that too about Jesus. I'm gonna say thank Jesus for all this stuff.
Yeah.
Because He's the creator of everything. So Heavenly Father, thank you for all the good topics of discussion, the insight, the wisdom, the knowledge. Thank you for creating everything. Thank you for sending Jesus to die for all of our wrongdoings, mistakes, and raising him from the dead. And we can just have faith in him and know that we're saved no matter how far we fall off. We're always going to be your children, and always know that you love us and have a place for us in heaven. And we just thank you for that. And thank you for protecting us against the evil in this world. Like your word says, no weapon formed against us shall prosper. We pray that over Daniel too, and the evil one cannot touch him. And we put on the armor of God too as we go through, so that we can fight against these attacks that are sure to come. The helmet of salvation to guard our mind, the breastplate of righteousness to guard our heart, and the belt of truth to make us stand upright, and the shoes, the gospel of peace, to share that news of Jesus with everyone, that if we believe in him and believe in that he's raised from dead, and believe in what you sent him to do for us, and just believe in him, that we'll be saved forever, and that you got us through your grace. And also that to know that for us, to help us preach the cross to ourselves every day, and put on the shield of faith to deter the fiery darts of the wicked one. And we have the sword, which is the word of God, to fight back with your word, with knowledge, with the strongest thing, which is your word that fights back against all the evil in this world. And for everyone who's listening, just pray for safety on their mind, strength, protection, knowledge of the Lord, knowledge and wisdom that you give us in this life as well. And to fight against all these things, Lord. And everyone know that they're valued and uniquely made in the image of God, and that we're all very unique and loved by you enough to show us how much you love us. The greatest love, to lay down your life for your friends, and you call us your friends. And we just thank you for that, Lord. And just thank you for an awesome discussion. Thank you for things to have cool conversations about and get into together, like the TF2, like any other games, or just topics of discussion, like what fun is, philosophical stuff. It was just really fun, and just thank you so much for that, and really engaging. And we just thank you, Lord. We love you. Thank you, Heavenly Father, Holy Spirit. Intercede for us in the areas we don't know where to pray at, and just no repercussions against this prayer. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you.
Okay, sir.
That was great. I'm going to do that now from now on. I'm going to pray before and after I do stuff like this.
Yeah, always, man. Never cease praying.
Yep.
Yeah, heck yeah, man.
I'll be praying for you. You're settling in well out in South Carolina?
Yeah, it's going pretty good. I've been doing the sales for a while, so what I'm selling is all natural meats, chemical free, no steroids, hormones, preventative antibiotics. Nice. So basically sell that, and which is actually a pretty valuable thing, because a lot of the meats in the stores and McDonald's is all just garbage. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's pretty hard to find quality stuff, so I feel like I'm selling something pretty good too, like I know I am. And so I just go to people's houses and do that. That job's going pretty good. We're looking into other things to make more money, and actually more quickly, because I've gotten pretty decent at the sale. I'm getting pretty good at the sales, just like knowing the fundamentals of it. So I'm drawing that into some other stuff. And we're planning on in the next 6-7 months to go back to Texas.
Whoa.
And buy a house there. And I'll be pretty close to my parents for a while, and then if we ever leave, which probably will, either to other states or go on missions or whatever, all those couple different things, we can like rent out that house, Airbnb it and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of the plan coming up. But right now, South Carolina is doing pretty good. I've never been out of Texas before, except for like a vacation, and then the Virgin Islands. So this is like a whole new thing for me. So it's like, and then me and Paige, my wife, so we got, married and everything. And like, we've been doing that together for a while, for only a few months, like 8 months now, I think. And, but it's been pretty awesome. God's definitely brought us to this point. And it's so cool to talk about today, like the TF2 stuff. I was so excited. I was like, man, yeah, let's talk about it, man.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it. Yeah, it's so cool, because I hope that they do something with that. But yeah, man.
All right.
Sweet.
Well, I gotta go. I'm sure you have to as well. You go to your lovely wife. I'll finally get you off.
Okay, man. Well, it was good talking to you, and just
yeah,
man. Have a good night.
Thank you so much.
We'll play something soon too, even for a video or for not, just to play it, or even just like to play a game if you have time.
Yes, please, absolutely.
Just hop on Left 4 Dead and just play, or whatever game. If you have a game that you've been liking, we can hop on. It's anything. We'll just do something.
Yeah, I'm hopefully going to be actually playing Left 4 Dead for the first time soon. I just finished Portal, so that's been fun. Yeah, I've never played Left 4 Dead.
Did you play Portal 2?
No, I just finished Portal yesterday, so I'm gonna probably play Portal 2 soon.
Are you doing videos on that, like your first playthrough of it?
Yes. I'm editing all the footage out into like my first ever playthrough of it. I have no commentary over it because my mic was broken at the time. So,
oh man!
But I'll be sure to make it entertaining nonetheless.
Yeah. I want to watch you play through that for the first time, man. You know what else? If you play Portal 2 and you upload it, or even if you don't upload some stuff, I really would like to play that Portal 2 co-op with you.
Yes.
And that'd be so cool. We could do some episodes where we try to like solve all the challenges, because I've never played Portal 2 co-op. Like,
Really?
rarely have I ever touched it, so that'd be a first time for me too. So it'd be kind of cool to like go through it and try to figure out the puzzles together.
Yeah, we could do a whole video
And,
series on it. Shoot, man, that'd be great.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. If you're down with that, we could do a whole video series. Like, and then if you've never played Left 4 Dead before, I played the heck out of Left 4 Dead 1 and 2, but like I'm down to play it on expert or whatever difficulty and kind of run through it with you for the first time. A couple times we could do either some videos on it or just play it on our own to decide both things. I like to actually do both. We have our own game sessions and we could film some and be fun. It'll just be really cool.
Yeah, that would be great. I'd love to do that. I've been looking for like a friend to play consistently with for a while. So if we could do that, that'd be great. That would be great.
Yeah, man, I'm totally down. I've been looking for that too, to have someone to like, hey, let's hop on Left 4 Dead. Hey, let's hop on Portal 2, because I got them all downloaded, ready to go.
Yeah. All right.
Sweet, man. Yeah, well, let me know when you want to do that or whenever.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, anyway.
I absolutely will.
Cool, man. All right, Daniel, I will talk to you later, man. Have a good night.
Good night, Josh.
Good night.